This conference will now be recorded.
This is the regular meeting
Your mic's
of
off.
the county commission.
Okay, let me start again. This is the regular meeting of the county commission, May 21st. The time is 9:01. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll for the quorum?
Chairman Romero,
Present.
Commissioner Romero, Commissioner Vehil,
Present?
Commissioner Brush,
Present.
Vice Chair Mascareñas.
Present. Thank you. We move to inspirational devotion. Does anyone have an inspirational devotion this morning to relate? If not, we'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Would we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Yo juro felicidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y la república que representa, una nación bajo de Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yo saludo la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México, la simbología de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as a symbol of perfect friendship among the United States. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Commissioners.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second. Got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Mascareñas to approve the agenda as presented. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Romero, Commissioner Vehil,
Yes.
Commissioner Brush,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascareñas.
Yes.
Chair Romero.
Yes. Move on to public comments. Members of the public wishing to speak shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. No action will be taken because it's not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the room that would like to speak to the commission or the public? Guess not. We'll move on to presentations. This is number 7, presentations. A is a presentation of the Health Council fiscal year 2024-2025 Department of Health funding. Roxanne Sanchez.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, everybody, thank you so much for having me for your time. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Hi, good morning. So my name is Roxanne Sanchez. I am the new hire coordinator, and I am here to present a little bit update of what's going on with the Health Council, and also, excuse me, and also to present a document that needs your approval for some funding that we have received from the Department of Health. So if you would like to pull up the document that was attached of the fact sheet on your Health Council of the county website.
Can I speak this real quick?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Mr. Chair, Board, Mr. Romero, what the Health Council is presenting, I've gotten clarification from DOH, Department of Health. I represent Candace that it's for approval. It's not for approval, it's for presentation. We have to document this, that we came in front of you to let you know that we've accessed this fund. So we've already have the line item for this in the past. We're just reestablishing the grant for this next fiscal year. So it's a presentation just to make sure for that.
Thank you.
We don't need approval on this. I thank you.
Yes, thank you. So a letter of support was required for the deliverable number 2, deliverable number 4, needing a letter of support from you guys saying that you do support the council and you see what we're doing. And we also need a letter of support just recognizing that we have proposed this document and this update fact sheet for the fiscal year 24-25.
Okay.
And if I may, the funding can be used this year. The DOH funding in the past was allocated towards certain items in the community. It was to have a health fair with our commissioners, to pay for things that they, for our council, I'm sorry, to pay for attendance for what they wanted to attend meetings throughout the district or the state for that purpose. This year, it's kind of opened up. I think we've introduced Roxy as our healthcare coordinator, if you would. This also is used to cover some of the salaries to help her keep us involved in this as well too. So we've got clarification for that purpose of the funding this year. And we do stand for any questions if you have any. And again, this was a presentation just to let you know that we've re-engaged with the Department of Health to obtain funding in the amount, I believe it's 16,500 some change to go into the healthcare finance, our line item, I'm sorry, for that purpose.
Commissioner Brush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both for being here. It's good to see you this morning. Just a quick question. Does the Health Council have any events coming up soon? Do you have any events planned?
Any current events? No, right now we are working for capacity building, being that they just hired me on. We're really trying to cross our T's, dot our I's before we get into an event. We are working with and partnering with the idea of working with the 100% initiative as well to support their events and showing up there.
Excellent. That's good to know. Thank you so much, and appreciate the kind of like dotting the I's and crossing the T's work.
And
That's
Commissioner Brush, if
important.
I could give you an update. Yesterday in our leadership meeting, an individual from one of the other departments asked if we could do a blood drive this year. He has some of that he's given me the information for. We immediately went with Bobby, the people that look over the ad center for us to see if this could be feasible. So I'm waiting for a contact person from Edward Martinez for a blood drive that I figure this would be the perfect opportunity for the Health Council to also entertain, since we have the associate. Please forgive me, Valor, I think it was the name of it, for the blood drive for that purpose. So we want to team up with them here probably in midsummer to see if we can do a blood drive here in the county for that purpose.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both again, and appreciate the update and seeing all the facts on the fact sheet. So thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Commissioner Vehil.
Yes, I also want to thank you for being here and for what you all are doing. Just a couple of questions. And first of all, I wanted to comment, I'm so glad to hear about the 100% Taos, that your initiative, that you are certainly working together with them.
Absolutely.
And so that's really great to hear. The other thing is board members. I know that we've lacked in the past a couple of board members. Can you bring us up to date as to what are we lacking right now to make a full Health Council board?
Well, speaking with you, we do have one still in your district.
Right.
Of course, we're kind of waiting to see after the elections,
Okay.
because of course, a great honor of being on the Health Council is being appointed by you folks for that purpose. So we are in your district, Mr. Romero Miguel. We still haven't heard back from the previous representative. I'd like to touch bases with you to see where that's at. And of course, with the Commissioner Mascareñas in the Penasco area, if you have anybody, let us know that you'd like to. We've moved over Roxy. Roxy has actually taken this position for the Health Council board to help us move along, and so it is vacant as well as yours. So if you'd like to speak a little more on that, if you have somebody in mind, I'll speak with you on another time so we can get that covered as well. Okay.
And I have heard some really great things about you all, so thank you for doing
It's
what you're
exciting
doing.
time for
Yeah.
us.
I'm glad you're hearing good things.
Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
That's it.
I think we have them all answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Rest of your day.
And we'll move to B, update on the Taos Housing Partnership. Lisa O'Brien.
Good morning.
Good
I
morning.
wasn't paying attention to the agenda, so here I am making notes on my presentation. I'm very glad to be here today. I was hoping that our consultant, Jen Lopez, who is with Project Moxie, was going to be able to kind of do this presentation with me. So I will tell you right off the bat, I will give you my best presentation around some of the very technical pieces that we're moving into, but I will probably need to defer to her at some point in the future. I know that you each have a presentation, so I'm going to kind of go through this a little bit in sequence. I want to talk a little bit about just Taos Housing Partnership and where we are as an agency. give you a good overview of where Taos Housing Partnership is with our home buyer education classes. That's one of those pivotal kind of anchor points for our program. Talk about where we are as an organization with our affordable housing manual, and then talk about next steps. So I'm going to kind of do some high-level stuff, but we can all follow along with the presentation. I believe I said in my 4-minute comments last time when I thought I was doing 3 minutes, that Taos Housing Partnership has received our 501c3. So as of the middle of March, we are fully into our nonprofit status, which is a very pivotal moment for us. I want to remind everyone that I started on May 1st. So we're literally like 9 months in, got that 501c3 in place. We've done all of the policy pieces that we've needed to do. So a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, particularly through our 3-year roadmap, had nothing in there about the 501c3 becoming established. So I can't stress enough, it's been a huge piece of the work in the last 12 months is getting us to this point. I have a 10-hour-a-week colleague, Alexandra Goldman. She's doing a lot of our community outreach work. I will share with you, I thought I was hiring someone who was really going to kind of help me with sort of the tasks and scheduling and stuff. And I went, oh, no. She has this amazing just gift and expertise around community engagement. So she is working 10 hours a week on a contract and primarily working on our Cuesta project. So there's a landscape study that we are underway with the village, with Cuesta. And Alexandra's also doing our media campaign. We have 2 new board members that came on as of April 1st. So there's another big chunk of work that's happening with getting our board, which is now 7, up to what they need to do as a board. So we're now working on probably having a summer retreat, getting really solid in vision, mission, what that means, and then what their roles as board members will be. So we'll start having term limits defined and really start kind of moving in that direction. Again, I know that a lot of that stuff is really boring, but I have to say it's absolutely critical for the success of a nonprofit moving forward. So I want to give a nod to that. The media campaign became very obvious very early on when I started that, wow, we need to start having some conversations just to sort of neutralize a conversation around housing. So we embarked on a media campaign. What we envision with that, we are partnered with True Kids One, which is this amazing youth technology video. Man, they're experts when it comes to sort of technology and particularly community work. They're very much a part of this kind of crafting this. So we were awarded money from the National Association of Realtors, and that was through very strong partnership with the Taos County Association of Realtors to get funding in to help support that media campaign. We are embarked right now on trying to get all of the folks that we've identified to do video interviews. And then what we will do is probably going to capture anywhere from 30 to 40 individual folks, elected officials, leaders in community, folks from within the community, employers, who can all talk very openly about why housing matters. What I found really, very quickly out of the gate is it's very easy to put definitions to things. So affordable housing, and then everyone has an opinion about what that is. And then workforce housing, and then we all go, what does that mean? So I'm really kind of taking it back to start conversations around why does housing matter in this community? Because it matters to every single one of us, as employers, as parents, as employees, as people who live and work here. So that I anticipate we will probably have a summer community event where we will actually show what will probably be a 4 or 5 minute video. And then what we also have is we will have this library of the 35, 40 individuals who have done about 15-minute interviews. And we'll use those throughout the year to kind of just continue to talk about why housing matters. So when we get into those really difficult conversations about, hey, there's this project kind of spinning around, how do we bring it back to really the deeper values of why we have this housing issue? I want to do a nod to just say that I'm Taos Housing Partnership, me, is very involved with the comprehensive planning process that the county is involved in. And I want to just give a nod to all of you that that work has been really fun and very deep. So I'm part of that steering committee. And one of the things that I found that I hope when that presentation comes to you, I had some eye-opening moments where the survey that was done is absolutely incredible in terms of the information that came back, particularly about housing. I sit in a lot of meetings and I hear all of the folks who talk about, oh yeah, I'm all for affordable housing, but please not there. I don't want it to look there. And I think it should go way over here. And there's a lot of opinions. The things that I came away with from just the very intro parts of that comprehensive survey is that close to 90% of the folks who filled that survey out said they strongly agreed for affordable housing. And when you had 1,000 people fill out that survey up to, it was still going on when we looked at that data, it was this huge aha reminder to me when I said, oh my gosh, that means there's 900 people out of that 1,000 who said we need affordable housing. And I went, okay, like to just like take that in as another tool. I can't stress that enough. A couple things on Taos Housing Partnership's role. Right out of the gate, I say this every single time, Taos Housing Partnership is not a builder. I am not a developer. I will not be digging trenches and designing houses. So our job in this community conversation, we're really more of the facilitator and the convener and kind of maybe the coordinating body to get projects up and forward and moving. I think what we have seen as a community, and I think this goes back to why Taos Housing Partnership came to be, is there was that realization that we can't rely on one entity to do housing. It can't be in one county or town government. It can't be one sole nonprofit, and we can't just go to developers and say, would you please build affordable housing? We all know that those are the challenges. So that's how Taos Housing Partnership came to be. It was out of those conversations 2 years ago. We said, great, let's stand up a 501c3 and let's try and facilitate that work. So on this Taos Housing Partnership role, you will see what is highlighted is Taos Housing Partnership is not a builder. I do not anticipate that we will be moving into that role, certainly not anytime soon, and maybe not in 10 years. So just want to kind of continue to sort of bring that back to center, that our work is really around kind of the convener, cultivator. How do we get down payment assistance and second mortgage money in place? How do we build that pipeline for home buyers to become home owners? I think about it as a triangle. You've got home buyers. It's part of getting folks ready to become home owners. That's a big piece of it, and that doesn't happen overnight. The second part of that triangle is we have to have the home. We don't have the stock in this community, and that's not because somebody's done something wrong. It's not because developers don't want to do it. We don't have enough stock. So you got home buyers that we need to prepare. We've got to start building stock, and then we need second mortgage funding. This is the big gap. So that's on my end in terms of trying to come up with how we're going to fund this stuff. So I want folks to really think about that it's really like the three-legged stool, and they all kind of have to happen at the same time. Because if you build up a pipeline of people, but then we don't have the housing, then that doesn't work. If we build a whole lot of housing and then we don't have people to move into it, then we have another problem. So it just constantly sort of going like, can we go back to sort of level setting on how complicated all of this work is? And it's going to take us time, but I'm very confident in that work. The housing manual this is a critical piece to what the next steps are. It's what I was kind of going over in my notes. This is now a 23-page document. It's in its third revision. Essentially what this is going to be is this becomes you would like to work with Taos Housing Partnership, you as a developer want to come into community, this is what it's going to look like. This is what we're putting forward as the working agreements, the working documents to say this is how we do partnership around housing moving forward. Back to the three-prong approach. So the housing manual, we started in December. Of course, we always have these, oh, we'll have it done in 2 months. And then we go, oh yeah, and here we are 6 months later, and we're really close. Just to let you know, our board is reviewing this currently. I anticipate that it will have their stamp of approval once we get through all of the details on it by around the 1st of July. And then the hope is that as we work with developers and we engage with county and town and municipalities, that those government entities also adopt something very similar. So it would be fantastic if we said, wow, this is the community manual that outlines policy and procedure around how we're going to do housing collectively. That's ultimately what the goal is. I want to just emphasize again, the complexity of all of this. Chamisa Verde, we've been talking about Chamisa Verde for a very long time. It's a really good example of there's light, there's site, there's land. How do we mobilize it? But in order to do that, we've got to come back to sort of what these agreements are so that it's clear on what everybody's role is. Because Taos Housing Partnership is in the position that we're in that space right now to go, great, we're ready. This, 501c3 is in place. Now let's get this manual done. That becomes sort of the next marching order in terms of how we're gonna really kind of move all of this stuff moving forward. So very quickly, the program overview, the next slide covers the 8 things. There's a lot of stuff in this that we just need to sort of level set. So I'm gonna just talk very, very highly. There's probably 3 pages of definitions. So we pulled out the one around affordable housing. I hear people talk affordable housing all over town. And how you define affordable housing is often dependent on who the speaker is. When you talk about affordability from a developer who's trying to build, that's a different context than affordability and what HUD emphasizes. Our definition when we talk affordable housing is that it's provided at a price that goes back to area median income guidelines. So that's our definition when we talk about affordable housing. Again, level setting across the board. The housing program client criteria, this is one of the big pieces that our board is looking at. So when we talk about who's eligible for that second mortgage subsidy, second mortgage assistance, it goes like this. We've had folks say, oh, I think it needs to be people who've lived here for 5 years. Got other folks that are saying, well, I don't know if they've been here for a year and they're working at the hospital. So you can see, like, to just try and figure out what eligibility is, because we can't serve everyone. So again, we're constantly trying to come back to what can we manage? How do we build solid program and procedure around it? And the eligibility criteria is one of those things. I can give you an example in Santa Fe that their HomeWise has several different types of programs. So if the county says, hey, we want to work in this particular area, we could have agreements on contract with the county that says this is who the county's money is going to serve. The town could have something different. The hospital could have a whole program for themselves. That's where Taos Housing Partnership is kind of getting ourselves set up to say, this is how we can work with employers who may have very particular kinds of things and may have money to bring forward to that. So I stress that from the sense of eligibility for us, Taos Housing Partnership right now, with the money that I'm working on securing, that eligibility piece will sit with our board of directors. And again, I hope to have that determined by the 1st of July. One of the big things that is in my court is the home buyer assistance program. So again, we've got folks coming in to take home buyer education classes. That's one little piece. What we don't have yet, and what is not in this community, is there is not a source of funding for that second mortgage. And when we get into sort of like the meat and potatoes of numbers, we're talking about that gap of what we know people can afford based on their income and what the price of building is. There's a gap, and we're pushing $150,000, $200,000. So when we talk about getting people into affordable homes, we have to solve for that gap. And that's where the second mortgage funding comes in place. That's the other piece, is our board of directors is looking at what is going to be that cap. I'll give you examples. There are organizations, or there are communities up in Denver, their gap and the subsidy that they have figured out is $150,000 one home. So I can't emphasize enough the scale of what we have. Taos Housing Partnership is looking at how do we facilitate those layers to fill that gap. So one will be through a second mortgage product. I'm in conversation with a very dynamic realtor who wants to spearhead a closing cost fund separately. So I envision we have sort of this cake and you got layers on all of this. So how can we mobilize with our partnership with MFA to take on one of those layers? This is the gap that we're dealing with. It's a huge piece. That's what we're working on. The piece I just want to point out, the Taos area median incomes, again, really good reference points for all of us to recognize. These are numbers that were just updated in April. This comes out of HUD, so it's all based on the area median income. So if we look at the number of persons in a household, I'm just going to pull a number up. If you look at number 4 people in a household, and you go down to the 120% AMI, which is that line along the bottom, we're looking at serving folks who have an income of $77,000. That's our target population, is up to that space. So if you can think of a family making $77,000, and we don't want them spending more than a third of their income on housing, this is where we are on the market prices. That's why we have the gap that we have. If we go to the Homebuyer Assistance Program chart, this all aligns with the Affordable Housing Act, which is another one of those federal things that we can't move away from. So all of these parts, this is all based on kind of best practice. Again, we're looking at that medium or the income level at about 120% AMI, so that we're not in a position of going like, oh, we're just going to kind of randomly sort of pick out numbers. So all of this is based on formulas. All of this work is based on best practice, and all of it falls within the Affordable Housing Act, which we need to follow. We talked about the Homebuyer Assistance Program. This is really that mechanism that provides that second mortgage, that gap area that we're talking about, is that operates as a zero interest loan. So the homeowners that come in through through a homebuyer education class who meet the criteria are working with Taos Housing Partnership. This becomes the subsidy piece. So it's a zero interest loan. It's held as a lien, so folks can't get into it 6 months later. Everyone says they can't flip it because we have first right of refusal on that, but they're not paying interest on that loan. That's how we get them in on that subsidy. And so that whole piece works as filling the gap, and it also becomes a set agreement that's part of the mortgage product. Qualifying affordable housing projects. This ultimately is the negotiating space that Taos Housing Partnership can then work with developers directly. So I remember Commissioner Romero, you asked at one point, are you going to be working with developers? And I'm saying yes. This becomes the place for developers to come to the table and for Taos Housing Partnership to say, great, let's help you put your project together, and how can Taos Housing Partnership help package that? Because again, we're going to have all of these funding layers that need to be in place. What the manual does is it gives a builder or a developer an opportunity to meet with us to go, here's the price point we're trying to meet. So we're at this point, we have to build projects moving forward with mixed income in mind. So to give you just an example, if you have a developer who says I can do 20 units, great. Sitting down with Taos Housing Partnership, we're going to help figure out that financial aspect. And maybe we say, great, could you do a voluntary set aside of 5 of those 20? And those 5 are going to be at that affordability space that we know we need to meet. And then that gives the developer that opportunity to figure out how they're going to figure out the selling of the other 15 to make up some of that difference. So this is really the question that we then start asking our developer group, what do you need? Because we cannot go to our developer community and say, could you just build it at the price point we need? They can't do it. So this becomes this whole negotiating aspect, and it's with the mindset of getting folks into those units or those homes at a price point that they can do. That would be an example of an affordable housing project. So a developer sits with Taos Housing Partnership and says, got the land, I want to move forward on this. What do I need to do to make some of this affordable? And that's where Taos Housing Partnership can have that contractual agreement with a developer. The 2024 target price slide is, again, this is what we're talking about in terms of what affordable home prices, this is what we want to try and hit. So if you look at that, the very bottom, I think it's easiest to look at the 101 up to 120% AMI. If you're talking about a 4-person household, what we're trying to target is something not over 241. You've looked at pricing of housing in this market. We don't have much in that realm. So this is where we're back to sort of like, how do we build it up from 3 different directions all at the same time? This is why we need to build differently. And I say that from in the context of mixed income, that we can't expect our developer community to just do it because we want it to be done. The long-term affordability mechanisms, again, it's that larger piece around the mortgage assistance loan, could be cash, could be subsidies, but this is really to try and make sure that we're holding those assets in community. One of the things that Taos Housing Partnership is looking at in their model is a shared equity. It doesn't make, I don't want to say it doesn't make sense. We're recognizing that if we get folks into homes that they can afford, we want them to have just as much opportunity to recoup on the equity that they're paying into that home. So it will be a shared equity model, not a, oh, you finish paying off the loan, the first mortgage, and now you can just be a homeowner. So we're looking at those things that will be written in that affordable administrative procedure. A lot of the program administration and agreements are going to be contracts and are going to be actual loan contract or loan documents. So this is where, depending on who we're partnering with, at what point in the junction of the conversation, this is where we have administrative support. Right now, Taos Housing Partnership, as a 501c3, is able to accept charitable contributions. I've had probably close to $200,000 come in operational support. That's something I'm actively doing while we're also building out these funding pieces. The parts that are going to need to start having conversation with is, how do we continue to support Taos Housing Partnership as an organization? So I leave that open for further conversation. Next steps for us, as I mentioned, the administrative procedural manual is in draft form. Our board is actively reviewing that. They will probably have the stamp of approval, I'm hoping, by the 1st of July. This manual has been shared in its draft forms with both the planning department staff here and with the town of Taos. We're slowly starting to kind of share it out with both funders. I had a conversation with a developer a couple of days ago who had some very specific technical questions about deed restrictions on a project that his group is working on, and that we shared the manual. We say, this is our best thinking moving forward. So just to kind of, we're starting to, I want to emphasize, this isn't about does everyone in the community say yes to this as much as it is how can we have conversation on this is where we're leaning and this is where we're going. So I anticipate, as I said, 1st of July, we should be ready on our end. And then I would love to have a conversation with the county about how you adopt pieces or portions or all of it to say, yep, we're in agreement. This is how we want to approach the moving forward on housing projects that the county may have, the county is considering. Those are all open conversations. I am actively involved in getting the funding in place to do the down payment, second mortgage assistance. Again, get home buyers who come in, but I got to figure out how we're going to have the carrot to sort of really have them come in, because otherwise taking a home buyer education class right now, when I don't have something specifically to offer them, is not real appealing. So we're trying to get the funding up in place to sort of do that. I'll tell you again, if we're talking $50,000, $85,000, one house, $1 million doesn't go as far as we'd like it to. So again, like, let's have some real honest conversation around what this is going to take to get folks into homes. We are also looking at potential sites. So Taos Housing Partnership, again, I'm not a builder, but if we can facilitate identifying a piece of land, finding a developer, we could put a project together based on that. So this is where Taos Housing Partnership is kind of working across multiple spaces. Any project that of great size is going to take years. So again, I have folks in community going, well, how many are you going to build? And I'm like, you know what? I do not want to put a number on it because my head will be on a chopping block easily within a year or 2 years or 3 years. So we all know how long projects take to get moving. Housing projects in and of themselves are even more complex because you have so many, you have multiple partners that are all playing a different role, and how we do timing on all of it becomes that critical space. I have in this next step, the last thing on my slide says committee, and I realize that looks like this hanging chad. One of the things that we have built into our administrative manual is that we will have a small committee of probably 3, probably no more than 4, that will really be advisors to Taos Housing Partnership when there's things that come up in reference to the manual that may need to be changed. If we set eligibility criteria and someone may be a little bit on the outside of that line, I want to be able to have a working group that we can go to say, hey, do we waive on this one? Is there a way to sort of tweak this a little bit without having to go back to my board to say, hey, we got to change the whole manual? I mean, obviously, I don't want to be in that position that we're making changes every 6 months. I will tell you that from the manual perspective, we will update it annually, and that's mostly because we're going to incorporate those new federal AMI, area median income numbers. So it's all going to sort of fluctuate. That's sort of the intent with the administrative manual, is it's really sort of 95% ready to go. But as with any new project that we take on, we're going to tweak it. Not because we made mistakes, but because we learned. So those are the big pieces I wanted to talk about. So if you have suggestions on who may be a great committee person, I'm open to that. We're looking for folks that are really kind of in the field. So a banker, a lender, a realtor. They will be obviously approved by Taos Housing Partnerships Board. But they're going to be kind of our small work advisory group with a very specific focus. That's my presentation. I failed to mention that we had our first homebuyer class we had on April 20th. We had 11 people show up. I was thrilled with that number. We did a very small survey of those 11 people, and the numbers were absolutely in line with what I knew was going to happen, is that the folks who had attempted to purchase homes attending that class, the reasons that they did not purchase, they didn't have the money for the mortgage. They couldn't find something in their price range. It's exactly who we're looking to serve. The goal for Taos Housing Partnership, and here my head is on the table, we're intending to have classes with having 250 folks go through classes in the next 3 years. It's big. We did one, we had 10. We're in conversation with HomeWise, which is a nonprofit out of Santa Fe, and we're in an MOU conversation with them about what next steps are. So I anticipate we will have 2 more home buyer education classes between now and the fall. It is on us, and I will ask for committee or for community assistance to get folks to that class. So I'm trying to get the down payment, second mortgage fund up and ready so that we've got something to sort of say, hey, come through class. This is how you can then do the next step with that one-on-one counseling. And then we have these programmatic pieces to offer, and that's on the fundraising advancement side. So that's it. I'm a year in, a couple days. It's been fantastic. I look forward to sort of whatever that next step is. The administrative manual is the next piece. And I would love to be in conversation around what that next step looks like so everybody has a really good understanding of how things can move forward with the county relationship with Taos Housing Partnership. And I know that was not 4 minutes.
Thank you, Lisa.
Pretty well on that space.
Thank you, Lisa. Questions? Commissioner Brush?
Thank you, Chair Romero, and thank you, Lisa, for the presentation. That's a lot going on. I've just got 2 quick comments and 1 easy question. One is it's super exciting to hear about the aiming for down payment assistance and second mortgage assistance, because that's what we're going to need to get anybody, any normal person in a house. So thank you for that. Second comment is I look forward to seeing how potentially Taos County can partner with Taos Housing Partnership as we move forward with the project back there for workforce housing on our 9 acres behind the county complex, because the financial structuring piece of that is going to be pretty critical.
Yep.
And now for the easy question. Where can we be watching or listening for the media campaign you talked about? I thought it was easy.
Yeah, it is. Well, it is easy. I get frustrated when I say, you know what, it's taking longer than I thought. It's taking longer than I thought. And mostly, I think we have about 20, maybe a little over 20 interviews that have been completed. So the way we've approached this is we identified through various sources anywhere from, we're looking at 35, maybe 40 people that we asked to participate. I think about 20, maybe less than 25 of those are complete. And then what we're doing with Taos, with True Kids 1, is really having to map out, okay, now what's the story? Because basically what you now have is we have 20 people that have done a 15-minute interview, and we're trying to get down to a 4-minute video. So how we're kind of storyboarding that is what we're working on right now. I hope that by sometimes, it may be late summer, early September, that we actually do a community launch. So that's all still that's in the works. Yeah, we have a lot of folks who said, yes, I'll do it. And then it's been 3 emails trying to get them scheduled. So that just becomes par for the course.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
So the problem in housing is the market. The cost of houses is higher than most people in the community can afford. And we're not alone. I mean, the problem is in Santa Fe, it's in San Francisco, it's in Taos.
Everywhere.
And so my question is, will your program be able to affect the market, or is the focus really on just trying to get people qualified for mortgages in the affordable range?
That's a hot potato question. Yeah, I just wanted to give you an example. I was down in Santa Fe Thursday and Friday, and they had a national speaker come in. HomeWise did they're doing a whole livability series. And the woman who spoke, and I had read this in the New York Times about a month ago, the need for housing units in this country is 4 million. Albuquerque's talking, they need 30,000. The numbers are astonishing. So to your point, yes, we're in the same space that everybody's in. I think where the challenge comes in is how can you kind of help adjust the market by doing other things. And I think that's a very large conversation that one organization and even just down payment assistance is not going to address. So it's a little bit of this, it's a little bit of that, and it's probably a whole lot of a bunch of other things. I think I was talking earlier about, I think if we can get to a space where we say, we need housing across the board. Because if you have housing come in at higher levels, and I know that there's a lot, and I'm maybe sticking my neck way out on this one, but this is what some of the speakers were talking about, is if you can get housing at those higher levels and they do come in, what it does is it frees up the other stuff. So it's a combination of, we can't just do this type of housing and think that's going to be enough, because it's not. And that's what we're seeing across the country. It's partly why we have communities, Austin, San Francisco, Portland, that have the homelessness challenges that they do. It's partly because it's like the whole system hasn't shifted up. And I think that's where we are. I mean, 4 million houses in this country. This country has had those types of housing crisis moments in the past. It was after World War I, the GI Bill, there was a lot of emphasis that said, how do we incentivize? How do we move it? We've got to do some big, bold things. It's the same thing as 60s and 70s when you saw a lot of public housing. Now we can argue and go back and forth about what was good and what was bad, and there's always going to be both of those. But the bottom line is there were some really big, bold decisions that needed to happen because we were in that housing crisis collectively together. And I think that's partly what we're going to do. I would love to say I, as one organization executive director, I'm going to change this community, and I can do my pieces. It's going to be a multitude of things.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Challenges are great in housing.
I love challenges. I got a big one. Thank you for the time.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll move on to C. This is 8C, a presentation on the 2024 Taos County Valuation Maintenance Plan. Presentation, Maria Dimas, our assessor. Maria, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Chairperson, members of the commission, and public. I am here to present the 2024 valuation maintenance. I got this plan together. My staff contributed, and so I am really pleased with the way things have gone. We have had to take a couple of different steps. Obviously, we don't have our chief appraiser for a while. We have our interim chief appraiser who is doing a fantastic job along with the rest of the staff. And so I will be able to pass it over to them, as I want to introduce them as well for their contributions. I have my Chief Deputy, Cristina Ramirez, and if you follow the information on here, I would like for her to speak on that, as I have a migraine headache, but I want to be here. So go ahead, Chris. Just go ahead and start this.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So we have our staffing distribution. We have a total number of staff of 21 employees. We have our assessor, of course, our deputy assessor is which myself. We have our office manager, which is Cheryl Rascon. We have some appraiser techs full-time. We have 5 of those positions filled. We have an appraiser tech temp. We have 3 of those. Currently, they're high school students that come after school hours to work with us. We have our senior appraiser, which is Juan Cintas. And of course, we have our interim chief appraiser, which is Daniel Rayen. We have assessment receptionist, which is Julie Herrera. Our assessment records librarian is Veronica Gonzalez Lopez. Assessment specialist 1 is Karen Cortez. Assessment specialist 3 is Duela Romero. And our senior assessment specialist is Elena Romero. Our GIS tech, we have 2 of those individuals. We have Veronica Ramirez and Natalie Evans, and our GIS analyst is Don Rael, and we are currently have a vacancy in our GIS coordinator, and that's our staffing distribution. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to our chief appraiser, Daniel Rael, for the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll try to use the mic, but I'm literally like 5 feet in front of you, so I'd like to, there's a lot in this report, obviously, so I'm going to focus on what's new. and of course, answer any questions you may have. Feel free to sidetrack me or ask for expansion on any kind of issue, but rather than just kind of read through line by line, unless that's what you prefer, I'll just kind of focus on what's new. So Christina's already gone over the staffing distribution. On the following page, which is page 4, it's a copy of our sub-districts, right? So this is how we break down the county into market areas. This will kind of give you a bit of context as we're talking about sub-districts, districts, market area focuses that we're going to be alluding to later in the presentation. So moving along, kind of the big number, which is net taxable value increase, we saw a taxable value increase of 59,868,264 this from last year to this year. About 28,152,000 was from new growth. New growth was mixed between permits being worked, but also partly our reappraisal of the ski valley. We picked up some new things up there that were previously unassessed. Expanding on that, we have a little bit more about building permits, where we closed out 271 building permits for tax year 2024, and we still have about 653 outstanding. From last year to this year, we saw about a 13% increase in the permits we received. A lot of the permit numbers that were reduced were as a result of our cleanup. So there was many redundant permits, permits that had already been completed or had no change for years, sometimes decades, or a decade rather. And so those were closed out and kind of removed from our logs. We don't have an inflated permit count. Moving along to our statistics, this kind of paints the broader picture for what the tax base has done since 2018. We have the line graph, which paints it kind of visually, where you've kind of seen some steady increase with market increase from about 2019, 2020 onward. The market has accelerated, and it remains so. It's probably not moving as quickly as it was in the peak of COVID, but it is still moving. And table reflects the same information below. Moving along, parcel count. This simply breaks down the various types of properties in the county. In general, you're seeing a gradual trend where more parcels are created a little bit every single year as people split them out through family transfers, claims of exemptions, creation of subdivisions, all those things that create multiple properties. Parcel breakdown by district gives you kind of a picture of what each district is comprised of, I guess, what type of property you find predominantly in any specific district. For the most part, most districts are mixed, with something like one in or the ski valley being a lot more commercial per capita. Same thing with Red River and most municipalities, which is something we'll touch on a little bit later. Moving on to the next page. Residential value by district, you'll see that one in by far has, well, actually one out and 1A have the highest concentration of residential properties, followed by one in, and then the rest of them are kind of following after that. 9 out, for example, is all the areas around Questaw and Red River that are not municipalities. Head of family by district, this is an exemption that pretty much any property owner can apply for if they live here. You'll see the most of those being applied in District 1A, which is kind of the outline areas of Taos, or what we consider Taos. Protests, so this is actually a bit of surprising information for us. In tax year 2024, we received 181 protests, which was accounted for about $68 million of full value protested. We anticipated a much higher amount of protests based on what we did in the ski valley. Surprisingly, we didn't get them. A lot of them were, I'll pause just a second, a lot of them were actually classification protests rather than value-based. So I believe there was a question?
Yes, yes, I was just going to ask, thank you.
Sure.
I was curious where the concentration of the protests are occurring?
As far as a
Yes.
property type or?
Yeah, like in areas. So are we seeing most of our protests come from Red River or Tusky Valley? Or
We did get a lot in the ski valley. Most of those were condos, and those were mostly classification changes. We revalued almost every single condo project that was up there that was non-residential, any unit that was non-residential. And so a lot of our value growth in the Ski Valley was driven by that, in addition to the reappraisal of commercial properties. So a substantial amount there. We have a fair amount of land grant protests. Currently, land grants are kind of becoming a new hot topic where a bill was passed, I believe it's HB 268, which extended some of the land grant articles to those land grants that were not original land grants, like the one in Valdez, for example. And as a result of that, in addition to a protest that was argued in Bernalillo County for the Chilili land grant, a lot of these land grants are pushing for exempt status. And so we have about 10 protests, I believe, with various land grants. We have Don Fernando, Santa Barbara, Serna, and I think one more, but I don't remember which one it is. Yeah, the Hondo one, most notably, the Valdez. So those are all seeking exempt status. So there's about a dozen of those. And of course, we're conferring with our county council and reviewing all the relevant facts before we make a determination on that. But that's actually happening across the state. So
yeah, thank you. Yeah. Classification. So when I think of classification changes and I think of those happening in Taos Valley, is it the short-term rentals or shall I say vice versa? We're seeing full-time residential now being turned into short-term rentals, therefore being classified from res to non? So
this particular effort, and I'll touch a little bit more on there because there's more to be said there as well. This particular effort didn't actually review them. They were assessed as they were currently classified. So talking about classification, property by default is non-residential until we're told otherwise. When it's residential, the amount that we can increase the value is limited to 3% per year. Right. When it's non-residential, we can increase the value up until market. And so in the Ski Valley, there was many condos which were non-residential, classified non-residentially, either because it was a second home, it was whatever the case may be, without examining the whys they were classified, we simply increased the value. Now, going back to what you said, there's a review that does need to happen at this point now, where we review whether the Ski Valley condos are currently being used as short-term rentals or anything of that nature. The difficulty with the Ski Valley is the town of Taos and currently the county are contracted with a third-party service to find those short-term rentals, right? The Ski Valley, there's no such service, or at least I don't know if the county extends to that since it's a municipality. So previously we looked at them based on who was paying into lodger's tax. We would take that information from the county, I don't know, the clerk's office in the Ski Valley. And so we started to take a look at that as well. So in every municipality, that's kind of an avenue that we need to go down, but we need something substantial to base our classification change and revaluation on. So where it's more concrete in the town of Taos and the county, or will be in the county, in the Ski Valley, it's a little less so.
Right, and I would suggest that if you talk to some of the project managers, because they have a list of, homeowners, right? And they also have a list of who's there for 30 days versus 6 months, and that's, just something to consider.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, that's, I guess, protests. So just moving on a bit. So state of appraisal, this is kind of a catch-all. This is what's going on in my division right now. So we still have two primary challenges, one of which we've touched on before, and that is our TRADIC, or the limitations of our assessment software right now. We've actually started shopping around and we've met with Tyler and Catalyst, and we hope to make a decision on that in the coming year. Something that will help us basically touch more properties at once. We're kind of limited in how many properties we can touch. There are options in TRADIC, but most of them require a lot of effort up front in order to do it. It's not, to me, an efficient use of time when the system should be working for us rather than us working for the system. The other avenue, of course, is training. This is something I've basically harped on to anyone who will listen for like 3 years now. Training is critical, right? My staff will continue to grow naturally as I train them and as they get experience. But if you want to see increased growth, training is the avenue that you take for that. IAAO training is the training that is what the state expects from us. And we currently aren't able to do it due to a restriction in the training policy. So that is, and I'll touch more on training in a bit, but that's kind of one of our challenges that we're currently under now. The comp plan was really great for us. We took a little less pressure on us. Our staff, I don't feel like I'm going to lose my entire staff at any given time anymore. And we haven't actually had any turnover in full-time staff since the comp plan was passed. So that definitely took a lot of pressure off of us, and it allows us to, have higher levels of accountability for our staff, right? If you're now well paid, we can expect more. We can hold you to a higher standard, where if you're paid the minimum, if someone gives you the minimum amount of work, it's kind of hard to ask for more, right? So the comp plan was great, and we definitely benefit from it. Internally, development that's happened is we've adopted Microsoft 365, which was a county-wide thing, and Colin, saw that through. And it's kind of become the best tool that we never knew we needed. Planners specifically, teams, allows us to do kind of quarterly reviews. It makes big tasks like reappraisal become just a word, become not just a word, but something that we can make noticeable progress on. So in a quarter, we can say that in this quarter, we want to review all building permits for 1 and then at the end of that quarter, we can see, was it done? If not, does something need to be carried over? Mm-hmm. And so at the beginning of each quarter, me and Juan and everyone else really, we meet to see what is our goal what are our goals for these quarters? What is our goal? What is staff's goal? What are things that come from state or from MADIA? And we incorporate that and to try to set a time frame for that. So it's more accountability and transparency. It also helps with distribution of work, right? So as each task is assigned, we can see who has all the work, who has, maybe we need to take some off this appraiser and put it on this appraiser. So I can't say enough how great it's been, and I'd encourage any department to definitely utilize it because it makes things a whole lot easier. Time for a water break.
Go ahead. Sorry.
It's okay. I talk too much and I need water often. So going back to training, I mentioned it before. The restriction on training that exists in the personnel policy basically says that if you fail a course towards a certification, that you are unable to, that the county will not pay for any subsequent courses. I understand in principle why this exists, although I disagree with its implementation. I really need it to change because, again, training is the key to better productivity, more professionalism, and I've really been working on it for 2 to 3 years, and there's been no noticeable change. Nothing, really. And so it is a bit frustrating because the legislature has passed multiple bills to give incentive to appraisers to want more training. They created the reappraisal fund to give us the funding to pay for more training, and yet we can't. And so the state frequently asks us, like, why aren't you sending your staff? Why aren't you sending your staff? And it's like, I wish I could, I can't. Now something can be said that, that our appraisers should take it into their own hands and, pay for their own training. Me, as someone who is spending my time training and investing time, energy, experience into them, says, like, I've already invested a lot in them. I should be able, or we should be able to make the decision of who we want to invest more in, which is why the reappraisal fund exists almost entirely. And so this is something, again, that I would very much like to see change, and I'm open to working with anyone and everyone to set strike a balance between fiscal responsibility, equity, and our ability to train our staff. So I appreciate any of your support in that effort as we move forward.
And if I may make some comments, thank you, Daniel. I agree with you totally. I really do. Training is very important. You're asked to make $1 million decisions, and so you definitely, when you go to protest, the first thing they want to know is what education, what training have you had to defend this value? So training is absolutely necessary. I don't know when it changed, but I do recall back in the day when I was an assessor, there was 2 shots at it. They're difficult courses to pass.
Mm.
It's cramming months and months and
Right.
a week, and they expect you to pass that. And so I don't know where it changed, but I certainly believe that we should look at it.
Right.
And so I will just say, commissioners, we do need them to be able to go forward and train. So I agree with you on that.
Thank you for that. So what it's worth, I did write a 6-page kind of document about potential gating mechanisms, right? We don't want just like unimpeded, unlimited access to training.
Right.
But
right.
we can use things like either time or, budget constraints to kind of control the frequency of and access to training. So there is room for work on it. It's just, we just need to actually make it a priority a bit.
And Chair, if I may add to that, and I think, it might have changed because obviously there's folks that do take advantage, and usually that's what it takes, right? Something happens and then that's how policy is changed. And
Sure.
so I think that I welcome your ideas and trying to get that under control.
So this is kind of the meat of the presentation, the actual reappraisal plan. There'll be a bit of talking, so feel free to interrupt or interject at any time if you need any clarification. The short version is the plan has changed twice since I came into this position. Initially, it was the county was divided into 3 portions, and we were kind of just going to divide and conquer. To me, it seemed unrealistic based on the staff that we had. So we shifted to start working, beginning in the Ski Valley and going geographically. We started to encounter some issues with commercial properties where we began to uncover a whole lot of just either mistakes or unclear why something happened, things that took a lot of time away from just reappraisal and trying to untangle what happened. So because of the time we spent in the Ski Valley, I will say it was relatively successful. Successful in general. We increased the taxable values in the Ski Valley by $28,261,000. And so I think our return on investment for the time we spent and the value we generated was relatively high. As our staffing is not bad. I'm okay with our staffing right now, but the more experience they have and the more training they have, the more confident I'll feel in being able to kind of turn them loose. And so based on our return on investment in the Ski Valley, we decided to shift gears so that we would focus on municipalities. They don't require a lot of travel, so not a lot of time is lost in traveling. They're dense, both mixed use properties, residential, commercial, vacant. And they have a lot of value, right? There's a lot of value to be captured there. To be sure, there's value to be captured everywhere throughout the county, but we'll get the highest return on our time investment by focusing on municipal areas. And so that's kind of our current direction that we're shifting over to. We did the Ski Valley. We're going to do Red River, the village or town of Red River next, and we're going to do selected properties from the town of Taos to include short-term rentals, commercial properties, building permits, condominiums, basically the things that are kind of the higher value without getting bogged down in the density that is the town of Taos. At least not yet. And so where Red River is a smaller piece that we can kind of knock out, town of Taos is going to take some time just due to its density. It's, I think, almost 11 sub-districts, right? Just the town of Taos itself. Whereas Red River is 195 in. And so that's kind of our goal, where we'll finish Red River and this year, we'll start the town of Taos, and then we'll complete the town of Taos, by which time my staff will be a little bit more experienced, a little bit better trained. Maybe we'll even have filled one of the positions, because we have a vacant position, which is my position. I'm basically in between the 2 positions. And so yeah, we'll be better situated to kind of tackle what the town of Taos is, because it's going to be a lot of work to do. And then in between those, when there are those lower density sub-districts, something like, I don't know, Ojo Caliente or something like that, we can squeeze those in as we're able to. So the plan is to kind of hit those municipalities and then move out to the outlying areas where there's value, but it's going to be less dense. So. And that's basically the summary of about 2 to 3 pages of what we talked about right there. And of course, as staffing situation solidifies and we work through municipalities, it's going to be a lot easier to give you these forecasts, right? Where we can say, right now, we're basically saying this previous year was a building year. We didn't make the progress we wanted to make. And so now we're still looking at probably 5 more years to the completion of the county. Of course, that's subject to change depending on the needs of, the assessor or the state, because they always come in with new things. There's the things that you want to do, then the things that you need to do, and then there's everything you find on the way while you're working to that. And so any progress you make kind of like, it's like, okay, well, we finished all this, but now here's 10 more things that we need to start thinking about. Okay, any questions? Mr. Bush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Danielle, Maria, the entire team. Thank you guys for the work and for being here. Just one quick question about the Taos Valley. And you had mentioned, and in your report as well, so thank you, that there were some issues with commercial properties. Mm-hmm. Is there still a chunk of commercial properties to be reappraised up there? And if so, like what is that kind of like size of work and potential value?
So there is, it's difficult to forecast the value impact. There is some work to be done. As in the past 2 years, condos has become increasingly, the assessment of condominiums has become increasingly at the forefront of what we're doing. As an example, the Blake Hotel is a condominium. Every single hotel room is a unit. And so that means there's like 100+ assessments just for the Blake Hotel. And so when we're looking at the Blake or Parcel D, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Ski Valley, that's where the ice skating rink is and SIDS. So those are condominium projects, right? And so our areas of concern for us are assessment of common elements. It's kind of been a missing or not sore, but I think a neglected topic for condos in the county. If it's been done, it hasn't been done comprehensively. And if it has been done comprehensively, it hasn't been done visibly. And so the assessment of common elements is a thing that needs to be done. The Blake, Parcel D, any other condominium in the county really, but especially in the Ski Valley. So speaking about the Blake, each unit needs to be revalued basically. And we need to do it with the best available data to us and the data that we have. So the units, hotel rooms are non-residential, but there are penthouses that sell on the top. Penthouses sell for quite a bit, and so we need to determine whether the penthouse valuation can be taken into, or sale price can be taken into consideration when we're valuing these commercial units, which are used as revenue generating, right? So same thing with Parcel D. There are commercial units at the bottom, but then the rest is residential. And so yes, the short answer is there is value to be had up there, and a lot of it is going to hinge off of our assessment of condominiums at this point. Also, from what I understand, the St. Bernard is still very much under construction. Once that's complete, then we will pick that up as well. I don't know whether it's going to be built as a condominium or whether it'll be a hotel in normal. Following that, from what I understand, the property where the like temporary tent-looking structure is across from where the skating ring is, that's Parcel C, that will be developed as well. So for the next few years at least, there will probably continue to be growth up there. And in the short term, yes, there's still growth in addition to what we've already picked up there. So,
thank you.
Okay.
If I could follow up,
sure.
Could you turn that into a percentage? What's the percentage of completion as far as reappraisal in
the Ski
Valley? Are we like 50%?
No, I would say we're probably like 85 to 90%. Okay. So everything big that needs to be done has been done, right? The Ski Valley was just a matter, the Blake is just a matter of adjusting the per square foot per unit. But that is not a foregone conclusion, right? We need to make sure that the data that we use, because it's 100+ units, is solid. And so that's a relatively simple matter to do. The assessment of the common elements as well, not super substantial, but we'll probably fold that into a county-wide effort where we're looking at all condominiums to make sure we're assessing them.
So the structure that's still being built, and I think you referred to it as
St. Bernard.
Yes. Yeah. Do you have it in at a percentage?
No, they've only done the foundation.
Okay, got it.
So far, I think there was some issues with the impact fee. I don't know, kind of a politically charged issue up there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And one more question there, I'm sorry.
Sure.
This is very interesting to me. Great job. Sales, there's not a whole lot of sales in regards to that type of structure. So will you be using the cost approach, or what
Right. So,
will you be doing?
So that's kind of the crux of our challenge, right? So there are very many residential, or at least condos that were built with residential use in mind. A whole lot of sales of those. In the Blake itself, for example, those penthouses are going to sell for over $1 million. You know, do you then use that price per square foot to value those income generating units or not? You could argue that's income generating, and so it should be valued higher, but also it's not a penthouse. And so before we revalue that, we need to make sure that we have solid data for all the commercial units that are true commercial units. The Ski Valley retains ownership of them, and so we don't have those sales to kind of use to revalue other commercial properties. So that's kind of our challenge and where we're at. So.
Thank you.
Okay, so the rest is just kind of update on other items that we've kind of undertaken. Short-term rentals, we kind of paused our review of them once we discovered that the planning department is going to be doing contracting to that third party. Who is it? Granicus, yes, Granicus. And so we'll just take their data and use it rather than us going through whatever methods we have to try to identify those properties. Andy and I have been in pretty regular communication about the progress on that. We reviewed all large grazing properties just to see.
Can I pause you there?
Sure.
Just so, in regards to those short-term rentals, will you be coding them in a particular way so that
Yes.
when we ask, where are we seeing the mass?
So there's an existing code for short-term rentals, but we'll probably be making sure that we have a distinct coding for that as well, because it's not a residential unit, but at the same time, it's not commercial, right?
Right.
It's just non-residential. And so our intent is to review that. We're also waiting a pending court case in Sierra County where property owners basically arguing that its use is residential, so that it shouldn't be non-residential. That case was filed in 2022 and it still hasn't been decided.
Right, but there is a statute, right, that says a particular amount of time.
You can change the valuation based on use, but the argument is whether the use as it's constructed is residential or non-res. Like if you build a condo that's meant to be used non-commercially, then is it residential or is it non-residential based on the short-term rental? That's kind of the argument there.
Thank you.
And so of course, if that case is decided in the county's favor, then that'll give us extra kind of ammunition if and when we encounter the same issue. So we did review all large properties benefiting from the grazing classification, special method evaluation, and we pretty much are just looking to update our records to have an up-to-date lease agreement, animal rendition, or application. And so we've kind of reached out to property owners on a district-by-district basis to kind of give them the opportunity to give that information to us to update our records. And this was spurred by the state. The state asked us to do this. And so we've done actually Penasco, District 4, and we're looking at moving to 1A and 1 out, I think, next. We're kind of doing it with as much time as possible so that the property owners have the opportunity to reach out to us before we, just remove their agricultural classification. And so, yeah, that's under process now, currently. We're working with the planning department to kind of build a framework with how we interact with certain applications and permits. We work together a lot, and there was a lot of kind of miscommunication at times. So that's the thing we're working on. And, of course, I worked in planning, so I also have I understand things from their side a bit. We basically had to revamp our residential sales process. The state has asked us that we have all residential sale verifications done by the end of January, or previously we were kind of doing it all the way up until the books closed. So it kind of takes 2 months out of our assessment process. And so we've kind of implemented some benchmarks to make sure that we're on track for that January deadline. We've also started digitizing those as well because, there's a lot of paper that we use. Finally, there's not a whole lot of updates on Connect, Explore, or Change Finder rather. We just haven't really utilized it due to available staffing. housing market, you guys already spoke about just a while ago, and yes, as indicated, it's kind of a complex issue. For our part, really just looking at those short-term rentals is kind of what we can do. But yes, definitely prices are still very high for Taos County, and your average employee could not afford even an inexpensive house in the county. So there's not much to say about that, at least from our perspective, other than we're looking at short-term rentals and we're doing what we can to capture some of the value without using that value to set the market for everyone else. There are those outlying properties that are selling for $1 million, next to some mobile homes, something like that. So we're not using that sale necessarily to set the value for existing property owners, but we are trying to capture some of it as well. Next, you'll have our sales ratio. This is one of our statutory requirements. Basically compares what properties are selling at versus what we're assessing it at to see. Ideally, you want it to be around 100. Our median ratio is about 96%. So it's not bad. It's pretty solid in general. Yeah. And then that information just broken down by increments for the next 2 pages.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Regards to the PRD?
Yes.
The PRD is 105.893, and a PRD above 103 indicates that higher value properties are underassessed.
Right. So
lower value properties are overassessed.
Right.
Can you give a little?
Yes. So that's kind of what we touched on in that last page. Well, I didn't really touch on it, but properties are selling extremely high, right? And so the comparable land sales in the same area plus the cost method, that's normally how we value a property, is nowhere near what the sale price was. Using pure comparable method is difficult because house lacks homogeneity, right? There's one house here is probably not very similar to the house, right, unless it's in a small subdivision with all houses built by the same builder. And so you have that disparity where we can sale chase and we can price a property based off its sale price, but when it comes to protest, we can't defend it using cost or comp. Right. And so some of that difference is in those specific sales.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so moving along, jump over to the records keeping page. Some information, I can't provide too much context for it, but you can see the amount of deeds that were worked year to year. Currently in 2024, it looks like we're at 1,273. Of course, that's going to change as the year progresses. Some other things you'll notice is kind of a decrease in certifications. We kind of had to clarify when a certification is appropriate. And yeah, I mean, anything you have questions about that page, I'm happy to answer, but mostly informational. These are still coming in.
Very helpful.
Yeah.
Informational.
And then finally, the state of mapping or GIS. It goes without saying that I am not the GIS coordinator, so this is kind of a very rough overview of what the status of it is right now. Definitely in a transitional stage at the moment. The day-to-day work and upkeep of the parcel maintenance continues, but definitely the staff is feeling the shortage in their staffing. So we're currently short a GIS coordinator. We have one vacant technician position. We have, of course, one new hire who's doing excellent. She's making a lot of progress. She's currently learning both ArcMap Desktop and ArcMap Pro, which are 2 variations of our mapping program. ArcMap Pro is kind of the direction that the GIS industry is moving towards. And so it's significant that she's learning both because that's kind of where we need to go very soon. Of course, we have our 2 existing longtime staff members who are continuing to do their duties as needed. One of those is approaching retirement age, and so it's definitely forcing us to look ahead as to what's coming next, what our plan is. So talking a little bit about that, with ArcMap Pro, they're phasing out support for desktop, which is what we currently use, by 2026. And so this requires us to have a migration plan in place, which hopefully we'll have before then. And hopefully the new GIS coordinator will be able to play a hand in that because it's critical that they do. And really that's kind of where GIS is. It's in a transition stage, but a lot of opportunity there for growth and professionalization. So that's the report.
Chair, I just have a couple more questions.
Go ahead,
If I may.
Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. It's been great. This is good. Very informative. Thank you. So on page 5, new growth, because new growth is our money, new money.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I've noticed that in District 1N, which is the town of Taos, that's where the highest growth has taken place. Can you explain what that might be? What are we seeing?
It's a mix. It's going to be a mix of properties, right? There's no one silver bullet answer that's going to tell you that it was this specific project or that specific project.
Okay.
There is new growth. There's been the new gas stations that are coming up. Dispensaries aren't really new growth, they're more maintenance. And so, yeah, the answer is not an answer that gives you clear cut. It's simply that there's been market.
But you can't identify that if you break it down by codes,
Sure.
right?
If we were to, go back, I'd be happy to give you some
Thank you.
information.
That's
Yeah.
good. And then last question that comes to mind is, do you know the projected, how much new money we're going to see? Have you guys
don't.
been able to identify that?
And actually have strong opinions about our involvement with revenue.
Right, I agree.
Right. And and then the reason behind that, the answer is I don't.
Okay,
I really,
thank you, that's fair.
I'll keep it at that before I soapbox.
Well, thank you. I would just say that this has been very informative, so thank you to the team.
Right. We're
Appreciate
open, as always, to any suggestions or improvements. We'd have to incorporate into the next plan. Now that we have our format kind of established, it's a lot easier to make those kind of adjustments or inclusions. So don't hesitate to reach out to us.
And I have one last question,
Sure.
sorry.
Go ahead.
The residential affidavits, are we able to keep up with those? Because we have such a short period of time in which to
We are.
lock in
Yeah, we are.
that value?
This year, it was a bit of a scramble because we
Okay.
got our time frame kind of shortened. But due to the changes we've made, it's a lot more quarterly checking to make sure we're on task,
Right.
so that by the end of each quarter, the 2 of the 3 months in that quarter should have already been completed.
Do
So-
you know the numbers on that? Like, do we have?
I don't have it off the
Yeah.
top of my
Okay, and just for the sake of the commissioners and those viewing, and I'm sorry if we're kind of talking a little bit of, but nonetheless, residential affidavits, and correct me, Danielle, but those are sales that have taken place, and a statute is out there that allows you to value those at full value.
Mhm.
And then after that, you only have a certain period of time in which to capture that. If you don't capture it, then they're locked in at that 3% cap. So that's where a lot of our value comes in, because all things are off the table. You get to go out
Right.
and
That's
really
that's
just.
exactly the
yeah.
case. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the
So it's
one
important to
exception.
get it where it needs to be, because then that's where fair and equitable really
Mhm.
takes place.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you.
It's fine.
Are there other questions?
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, I have one question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
What is being done in terms of filling vacant positions in the department?
So the records keeping is relatively fully staffed. It is fully staffed at the moment. With GIS, a lot hinges on, the GIS coordinator, and then what the new incoming coordinator will choose to do with his position. On my side of the office, we're okay where we're at. Because I'm interim, I basically am occupying one of the full-time positions on the floor as well as the interim position here. So once I commit to the full-time chief appraiser, then that position will open up, and I'm confident that we'll get an applicant. We haven't had kind of a lack of applicants now since the comp plan has gone through. And then further on my side, the goal is to have each full-time appraiser run a team with a temporary staff member to kind of maximize their efforts. Once I feel confident that each staff member is able to run a team on their own, that's when we'll kind of look at branching out further. So I don't know if you would like to expand on that. So that basically, feel free.
Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Rio?
How many folks are we affecting by that policy issue, that concern that you brought forth? How many folks are we affecting, or is it affecting?
It's difficult to say. So I think the policy is a lot more geared towards those positions, and I've talked with Brent a lot about this. So those positions that have a certification as a condition of employment, right? Those are positions like your law enforcement, your ambulance, your CLD, like all those things, which makes sense why you would have it as a condition of employment. You don't want an uncertified paramedic,
Right.
out in the field. And so also, I don't know that there are a lot of and this is out of ignorance, I don't know that there are a lot of departments that have kind of a training requirement or component that is an expectation. I can think of something like maybe medical billing, where it's definitely a good idea to have them well trained, but not so much that it's my kind of a requirement, even though it's not a requirement by the state or their overseeing agency. And so it's difficult to say who else is impacted by it, but certainly those positions that have a certification as a condition of employment are probably affected by it as well, but they have kind of a higher level of requirement because theoretically someone applying for that position would already have a certification.
Right.
Whereas in our office, it's an entry-level position and we're training them from the ground up. And that's why that training is so critical, because it's not like you can just go to college to become an ad valorem fee appraiser. You're trained on the job.
And see, what I was getting at, Chair, was that, how many folks may have taken the first course, didn't pass it, so now they're having to retake it, and now they're stuck.
So my entire staff at this point, with the one
Okay, that's what I'm getting at.
is now
Thank you.
stuck. Yeah.
Okay.
Where they failed the first or one of their courses.
And so, of course, they don't want to go out and take this course and pay on their own. They're very costly.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That
Yes, ma'am.
helps. Appreciate it.
Okay. Anything else?
There should be an action item.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Commissioners, Chairperson, this should be an action item where you vote to approve my plan. I don't know if you are able to have enough information to make that determination now, or if you wish to expand on that and wait a little bit more. I'm not sure what your...
Mr. Henry.
It doesn't have,
Chair, thank you, Chair Romero. I'm not sure if Sister Demas got the message yesterday. We did relook at it. The agenda request, we look at the body, just said about the presentation, how it's titled. And if you look at the box above, it said an action item. We did offer, this is part, I'm not sure if you got Sister Demas, since we're having a special meeting on next Tuesday, that we would approve it on Tuesday's special meeting.
I believe we're fine to approve, aren't we, Mr.
I think what Brent is saying is that you can't approve it because one of the items wasn't ticked off.
Oh, okay.
So we have to wait.
Because it just says presentation on the 2024 evaluation plan. It didn't say discussion, consideration, and decision to approve the 2024 tax spending evaluation plan. So we looked at the body of it, and that's how we basically.
So can we wait till the special meeting then?
Yeah. We'll have to
Okay.
wait till the special meeting.
Okay, then we don't need any further.
Questions from anyone?
Thank you, Madam Assessor.
Thank you
And the team.
guys so much. Thank you for your patience, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria, for the presentation on the valuation maintenance plan. Thank you. Okay. We'll move then to item Commissioner or Manager Hardeman.
Chair, I would suggest to the commission going back up on the agenda, we missed public comments, and there's this gentleman here is for public comments.
Okay. We didn't miss it. We did allow it, but.
She's not in discussion meetings, and I was.
Okay. Do we need a motion to back up to public comments then?
I will make that motion to go back.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hill,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Brush to back up and go back to public comments. So step forward, please. Give us your name and where you reside.
Call for the vote, please.
Hello?
Oh, okay. Let's go ahead. Call the roll, please. Yes.
Commissioner Vehil,
Yes.
Commissioner Brush,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascarenhas,
Yes.
Chair Romero.
Yes. Okay, go
All
ahead.
right. My name is David Baca. I reside in the west side of Taos County in Tres Orejas, also known as Carson Estates. And what my presentation here is dealing with an organization that's operating about 1.5 miles from where I live called the Taos Mesa Animal Sanctuary. And where it concerns the county is that in a communication with an attorney associated with this organization, they specifically mentioned that it was operating in cooperation with the county. And from my understanding, that means that they are being given animals by the Sheriff's Department to rehome. But I'm going to point out a couple things with this organization. First, the location is on Carson Estates, Unit 3, Block 76 and 75, and they are not the owners of it. This property is assessed to the Great Southwestern Land Company, which has been out of business for the last 40 years and is essentially abandoned property that they are occupying. Second, I have here a copy of New Mexico Administrative Code, Title 16, Chapter 24, Part 7, Minimal Standards of Animal Shelters. And when I read through this, I find it a lot harder to find something they are in compliance with than to something they are not in compliance with. And I'm going to point out one of the main issues here is in Part 9. Premises structurals, they should have a building that protects the animals. They are operating it out of a couple school buses in one building, which looks residential, a very small building. And there's also a section, include fencing sufficiently constructed to prevent animals from jumping, climbing, or digging to. They really have very inadequate fencing. That could cause problems with animals getting out, attacking residents or other people's animals, and they really should not be operating at all, as far as I can tell. And I'm going to point out another section of the administrative code that I specifically am knowledgeable about because I'm president of our local water association. This is section part 10, section E, reliable and adequate potable water shall be provided. Since they don't own the property, they have no possibility of joining our water association, and we provide domestic water. Even though they are registered as a nonprofit, they are a business. And we do have a section in our bylaws that could give a special permit to such an organization, but that would be contingent on them actually having the consent of their neighbors and actually operating according to state law, which we operate under. They do not. And even if we could give them water, our water permit is for domestic water, and we might not be allowed by the state engineer to even give them that permit if I consulted them and did everything by the book.
Okay, Mr. Buck.
So
your time is up. Thank you.
So,
is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Hi, my name is Karen Kingsley, and I also live in Tres Orejas. And just another footnote, David did cover a lot of that, but she does not have a permit. It was never issued to her for this animal sanctuary. You know, she put the fencing up. It's across the road. She built her house in the road. Those are other problems, but it's like we're concerned about the animals because we don't think they're properly taken care of. One of the stipulations, she's supposed to have a veterinarian on the premises. There's no veterinarian. It just, kind of goes on and on, but most of it David already covered. And so anyways, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else on public comments? Okay, if not, we'll go back to the agenda, which is new business. A, discussion, consideration, decision to direct the county manager and staff to create a community schools department and appropriate fund budget beginning fiscal year 2024-25. Mr. Jaramillo.
Thank you, Chair Romero. Good morning again, Commissioners. It's probably almost been a year since we heard the first presentation on community schools. I believe it was last June. Since then, there's been 6 community school meetings, many of which some of you have attended. And we've had support from Commissioner Brush, I think, has attended every meeting. And I think Commissioner Hill only missed one meeting. I know the rest of you have also done meetings. also here today is Penny. And so what we're wanting to do is that we've moved at our last meeting, we're finalizing who's going to be part of the joint powers agreement. Right now, Taos County would be a party to the agreement. Town of Taos, Taos Pueblo, Picaris Pueblo. These bodies that I just mentioned would be monetary contributors to the community schools department. And the school, Taos Municipal School District, Peñasco School District, and the communities, the charter schools would have a voice on the advisory board, my words, the advisory board, and we would form this. I do have a memo as part of the packet. So we're looking to create this community school department and fund this director position. The human resources department is already, we're at draft final on the job description. It hasn't come to the commission for approval yet on the job description. So what we're looking for today is for the commission to take action and direct main staff to create the community schools department, which would fall under the general fund. And then we would transfer our share of the money from LETCF funding, at least for the first 2 years. I do want to point out that I know we have the money for the first 2 years for the program, for the department. We would have to increase the revenues on the general fund revenue side to continue to fund this position. So I just want to point out that whatever we do or whatever the commission does can affect future budgets, and we do need to grow on the revenue side to sustain this as well. Down the road, there can be contributions by the school districts. We're not planning on that for this coming fiscal year. And then part of the joint powers agreement, Cuesta has attended a few of the meetings, but we're going to leave it open that they can also join at a later time if they so choose. And I stand for questions or if Penny wants to add anything to what I just said. And we're also looking for foundation monies too. I failed to mention that. So there's already been conversations with the Keeler Foundation, and that money would flow through another community foundation in southern New Mexico.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes, thank you. Yes, great project for sure, and great. This is something we need here in Taos for sure for the kiddos. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the town of Taos did in fact also they did say they would contribute 50,000. Is that correct?
Mayor Maestas has pledged 50,000. I don't know if it's in their budget, but that's what the mayor pledged. I believe we're getting those figures from what Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, and Albuquerque Public School District contribute. They have other contributors as well, but generally they put in 50,000. I think that's where we got our earmark from. I'm glad you asked that question because Bernalillo County is the other example of this working. And so it took them a few years. We're kind of jumping, not quite where they're at, but if we take this action today, we're jumping to where Bernalillo is and having this as a director level position.
They have been very instrumental in helping this go forward. I would just say let's hold our mayor to it. I'm sure he's not going to be offended. Yes, have him. That's it. That's all I got.
Commissioner Bush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Vehil, for that question, because I think it does point to just a point of information that this is a coalition, that Taos County is taking the lead in creating the leadership of a coalition, but we won't be shouldering the entire burden, financial or otherwise, only ourselves. And just for folks who are maybe listening, watching, out there in the world and who are not familiar with the community school model, we've had, as Mr. Manager mentioned, plenty of county-wide conversations about it. But a community school strategy it doesn't mean it's just a school in the community. It means that there are supports in that school for the families and the kiddos. So you have a greater chance of success and learning when your kids are not showing up hungry or with dirty clothes or with whatever kind of concern they have that has nothing to do with academics. So, and the results Penasco Independent School District is actually a shining example of this. Enos Garcia was our first community school in the county. But the Penasco has achieved some remarkable rates in terms of attendance and test results so far. And I know they do attribute that to this model that is a full wraparound support of our kids, which to me is our future.
On that note, I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
I would love to second it.
I have a motion by Commissioner Mascareñas to approve. Commissioner, second by Commissioner Brush. I have a couple of questions. What is the projection for the first year budget?
Well, we're still developing that. So we're roughly around 150,000 total. It may be a little bit more. That includes, we haven't set the salary yet, but that'd be salary and benefits and operational costs like paper, that type of stuff, whatever they're going to need for their department. So we're still developing that budget. So it hasn't been fully developed. The coordination team has had several meetings on that. I don't know if you want to speak to that, Penny.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for considering this. A couple things that I would add. We actually have done a proposed budget since we're going a little higher because we've been told be ambitious. So we're hoping for an annual budget of around 200,000. We know that we have at least, or we're counting on that we have at least about 155, 157 committed for a couple of years. Part of why we've added that other amount is that it was recommended highly from ABC and also from the organization SWIFT that supports community schools across the state, that we want to have a marketing, like we want to be able to contract for a website and proper marketing so that we get out the kind of support and word of mouth, both about community schools, but also to be able to continue getting donations. And I just want to add a couple other things about funding. One is I'm actually awaiting a call from the mayor. At one of our meetings recently, he said to me that he thought they might even be able to provide more than 50,000 because they are looking to use some of the revenues from cannabis funds towards schools and also towards behavioral health, both of which are community school project supports. The other is that the goal of this coalition is for an executive director and staff to actually raise more money so that the sole burden of this down the road doesn't only sit with the county and the town and the pueblos and the districts. I mean, it's likely and probably important that everybody contributes some so that there's that commitment on that level, but the hope is that the funds will be generated to help support it from other foundations. And because we're joining with districts and pueblo and government agencies, we have a chance of going for larger grants that want to see that level of collaboration on behalf of our kiddos. So,
have any of the other entities, like the pueblos or the school districts, committed any funds?
Yeah, so Taos Pueblo has. We don't have a final number because some of that, I mean, my co-facilitator for the organization is the head of training and education for the Pueblo, and it would come out of her budget. And so she feels like there's an amount that's commensurate with the percentage of students in our county that are Pueblo students, so she can comfortably put in at least 5,000 a year to commit. We're still talking with Picoris, but it would be a smaller amount again because they've got a smaller percentage of students. With the districts, we made an agreement early on because the districts are feeling pretty overwhelmed around budgets, as you know, for various reasons, various districts, that this first year we would not ask them to contribute, that they would see that they're supported well by the county, town, and Pueblos, and also by a private foundation. And then that we will ask them for starting next year's school budget to contribute funding. And those amounts we can't kind of set in stone up front because it's just dependent each year on legislative funding, PED, public education department funding, and all the various laws that change their staffing. For example, what they're dealing with this potential fifth day for some of our school districts is causing layoffs and a lot of challenges. So those things will have to be determined each year by resolution of how much will get contributed by the districts, but they're aware that there has to be some contribution because that has to be there in order for foundations and grants to be given. If they don't see that the schools have some skin in the game, so to speak, they're not as likely to want to get funding.
Okay, Commissioner Romero.
Yes, I am in support of this.
Thank you.
The first meeting we had here, it was everybody, pretty much every school is here.
Yeah.
But my question is, under who? In the county, or is it in the town that's going to be under? Who's going to be in charge?
It'll be a county department, so the department director would report to me. What's unique with this too is I would sit on the coalition board as well. The town would have a member, the two Pueblos, and the school districts would have representation as well. So even though they report to me, they'll be taking some functional direction from the board as well. Just as an example, we do have a great deal of homelessness here that the Taos schools is dealing with. So there's where they would look to the town.
There'll be staff. Are we going to be supporting that staff also, or is it just
Right now would be the support staff. Maybe down the road as we grow and grow the funding, there'd be additional support staff. Each of the school districts, and I can't speak on Cuesta, but each of the school districts has a community school coordinator. So in a sense, that will be also their support staff or who they'll be working with. So like in Penasco's case, if Michael Knoll needs something from the county, he would reach out to the director and they would work together. Taos Municipal Schools does have, at each of the schools, does have a community school coordinator, and then they have an overall coordinator. That position currently is being filled by Victoria Santestevan Gonzalez, and so she would coordinate with us as well. We're back with our director. So that is their support staff. So nobody's alone, and because they would just lean on the community school directors.
it's going on. And I'll support it, but we're going to be bringing up other stuff to open up more positions for different things. We got to be real careful that we're not opening up too much that we can't control.
And that's exactly what I say. I feel good for the first 2 years. That's why I'm not picking on them. That's why we also need the valuations to grow. And so that way we have additional revenue. We need our gross receipts tax base to grow so we can continue to sustain this.
Okay. Commissioner Brush.
You done, Commissioner Romero? Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you both to Penny Holland and to Brent for the information today. I just wanted to add one thing that I don't think we've said yet, which is that the charter schools have also had representation and participation in this coalition building effort.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Brush. Commissioner Vale.
Yeah, thank you. Do we know how the new superintendent feels about community schools? That's really important because.
I won't presume to speak for him, but I have been told that he was asked about them. He's familiar with them. He understands the concept of adverse childhood events and social determinants of health and the supports that are needed to support students.
Very good.
He has asked, and I have given a one-page report on both our community school situation and our coalition. And he has agreed to meet with myself and Bettina Sandoval from Taos Pueblo next week with a couple of board members so that we can get him up to speed for the coalition. And he's planning to be at the meeting on June 7th. That is for the small group of signatories. So we're hoping.
Thank you.
We do know that board members have been very supportive of it, and as has the former and now assistant superintendent.
But thank you.
Okay, thank you, Penny. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Romero? Yes. Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Commissioner Brush?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascareñas?
Yes.
Chair Romero?
Yes. Thank you. And we'll move then to B, discussion, consideration, decision to the county manager and staff to create a veteran cemetery department and appropriate fund budget beginning fiscal year 2024-25. Mr. Jaramillo.
Thank you, Chair Romero. We've talked about this several different times. Is the cemetery is drawing to completion, and the actual construction will again be done by end of June. We also need to maybe start looking at an operational phase of the cemetery, and that's what this item is on the agenda for. We can't wait for the federal government to designate us as a national cemetery. We're still ongoing with those conversations with our 2 U.S. senators and our representative. And so we're still pushing ahead on that front. But what I want to be able to do is if any veteran so happens to pass after July 1 is, and if they want to be buried here, that we would have that ability. I'm also asked for a meeting with Santa Fe National Cemetery. They have not responded yet because I'm looking to make sure Santa Fe can support us with the review of the paperwork, teach us how to operate it. I do have a couple of job descriptions that we've created for the grounds keeper. Now we're working on the supervisor one. I need to review the supervisor one. So it's also my hope that we can find the necessary local staff and then supplement it with working with Santa Fe, that we're able to operate the cemetery until the federal government does designate us as a national cemetery. We would pull the funding from the LATCF funding. And again, I think we're solid in the funding for 2 years. So hoping it'd be sooner that we become designated national cemetery. And then it's also my hope that any employees that we hire now, taking care of the grounds, that they would transition over as federal employees as well. So we do have a copy of their job descriptions as well that I got from Mr. Mendez at the state. So I stand for any questions, or if I need to clarify anything.
Questions for Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil.
Well, this is exciting. But what does that budget look like? I mean, when you say 2 years, are we talking, what are we talking about?
We're talking about 600,000 over 2 years.
Over 200?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Okay, other questions? burials, is that in the plans anytime soon, or?
Well, that's why we're creating this. That's why we're creating the position. So that way, if we can hire staff, get training from Santa Fe, and maybe them supplement us if they're able to for their first few burials, that we're able to do that. I also think we need administrative support from Santa Fe as well. That way, in reviewing the DD 214s and making sure we're doing this correctly. And so that's where I'm trying to have that meeting with Mr. Vasquez at the Santa Fe National Cemetery to give us that support, and that way we can be able to operate.
Okay, Commissioner Brush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Brent. Just real quick, I just want to say thank you for being so thoughtful about this as we've gone along, even like including making sure our job descriptions are in alignment with the federal employee job description, in case that is needed going forward. So I appreciate that a lot. And I also want to just acknowledge our veterans and citizen advocates here who have been a big part of making this happen. We're moments away. So thank you, everyone who's made this possible.
Okay. One last question on that walkthrough or whatever it is. I heard July 4th, and then I saw some other dates. Is that still on?
It's 4th of, yeah, it's still for the 4th of July. We are trying to coordinate, changing subject slightly, we are trying to coordinate another event for the official grand opening of the cemetery, but trying to coordinate the governor's schedule and the senators and the congresswoman's schedule. Everybody wants to come, so that meeting, that opening date still hasn't been determined. Once we coordinate that, we are looking for donations for that. I did ask UNM Taos to save us the gymnasium at the Armory, because I think to go from the cemetery dedication ceremony to the party, so to speak, to celebrate everything these gentlemen have sacrificed and worked on for opening the cemetery. I think that we also need to recognize and break bread. And well, that's going to get planned out. We're actually already working on some giveaways for the actual ceremony, ordering some stuff without a date, but yeah, but so we are planning for it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jaramillo. And we'll move to number 10, resolutions and ordinances.
Mr. Chair, I would like to move approval of item 9B.
Okay, we do have to.
Decision directing the county manager and staff to create a veteran cemetery department and the appropriate fund budget beginning fiscal year 2024-25.
Okay, we have a motion, Commissioner Brush. Second by Commissioner Romero. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Commissioner Brush?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascareñas?
Yes.
Chair Romero?
Yes, okay, thank you.
We all noticed we were going to fight for that one, huh?
Yeah. Okay, now we move to number 10, resolutions and ordinances.
Mr. Chair, could I move that we take a 5-minute recess before we can
We have a motion,
continue with
Commissioner
item
Brush,
10?
to take a 5-minute break.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Vehil. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Romero?
No.
Commissioner Vehil? Commissioner Brush?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascareñas?
Yes.
And Chair Romero?
Yes. We come back to order.
Motion to come back?
Motion by Commissioner Hill, come back in a second. For a second. Second by Commissioner, motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Romero to come back into open session. Madam Clerk, could you call a roll, please?
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Commissioner Brush?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascarenhas?
Yes.
Chair Romero?
Yes. Okay. We are now on resolutions and ordinances, discussion, consideration, and decision regarding approval of resolution number 2024-21, a resolution adopting the FY 2026-2030 infrastructure capital improvement plan for all Taos County senior program sites. Commissioner, or Mr. Chris, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Dawn Romero is hosting today. We have non-metro here in town, and they're having a site visit. So she's busy. She asked me to present on her behalf. And on her behalf, I'll highlight a couple of projects that are taking place right now. One, we have $1.2 million in capital outlay for the Amalia Costilla area. We have a building there that can no longer be utilized because of its foundation. We're looking to use part of that money to raise that building. And then fortunately, we were able to work with Peñasco, with the Cuesta school system. They have a school that's in very good condition with a commercial kitchen in Costilla, and we have a lease in place, and we're working to get into that building. So the dollars that remain, we have permission from DFA to move those dollars to that location. We still need to get permission from long-term and aging to do that. The good news is we don't need a lot there, so these dollars can be put to use to nice to have amenities for our seniors. In coming back down south in Cuesta, we're about to go underway for phase 2 of La Cienega. So the senior center we have in Cuesta right now is up on a windy hill. We're having to share space. It's not very accessible. It's not appropriate long-term. The La Cienega site is being developed for other senior programs that will complement what we're doing there. And so we're looking at phase 2. And because of the cost of construction, we're having to go back, and Dawn put in an application for $600,000 for phase 3, which will complete the project if that project gets funded. And those are the highlights. And with that, I'd ask for your approval of the infrastructure plan for this upcoming fiscal year.
Okay, question, Commissioner Brush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Madrid. Appreciate it. In the very last part of what you said, you mentioned an application for another $600,000 for Cuesta. Who is that application to?
To long-term and aging.
Got it. Thank you.
Any further questions? If not, do I hear a motion for approval? Motion by Commissioner Romero. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Vehil. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Commissioner Brush?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascarenhas?
Yes.
Chair Romero?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Madrid.
Thank you.
We'll move to B, discussion, consideration, decision regarding the approval of resolution number 2024-22, a resolution appointing members to the Taos County Evaluation Protest Board, which should consist of 2 alternates. Ms. Maria. Okay.
Good morning. We're back again. So the resolution before you is to appoint 4 individuals to the Taos County Evaluation Protest Board. The individuals are Kathleen Sullivan. She is a realtor at Swan Realty. Maria Pigliolia. She is also a realtor at the Laura Company. And we will have 2 alternates. Monica Gonzalez Wilder. She is a CES County Program Assistant with NMSU. And Mr. Tony Valdez is a community member and an agricultural specialist. They will serve a 2-year term that will become effective today upon your approval. And we look for you to approve our resolution.
Okay. Questions?
No, I don't have any. Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner. Second by Commissioner Mascarenhas. Madam Clerk, please call the roll, please.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Commissioner Brush?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascareñas.
Yes.
Chair Romero.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Move to C, discussion, consideration, decision regarding approval of resolution number 2024-23, a resolution authorizing the Taos County to pick up an additional 1% of the municipal detention officer member coverage plan, 5 member contributions with effective date of July 2024. Mr. Jaramillo.
Thank you, Chair Romero. There's 3 different resolutions before you. We'll be taking these one at a time. Over the course of the last nearly 6 years, Taos County has bought down or purchased an additional 1% of the employees' portion of their contribution to the Public Employees Retirement Association. So we've always also used this as a recruitment tool that we are buying down more of the employees' contribution. It also does affect their pocketbook as well by the county picking up this portion. Procedurally, the para says that the local governments need to pass a resolution, and then this resolution, if passed today, will then get submitted to para, and it would go before their board and for final approval and it's more of a formality. And so if the commission does approve this today, this will be effective for the first full pay period and next fiscal year, first full pay period in July. For the detention plan, after the pickup of the member contribution, the employee contribution percentage would be at 14.15% of their salary, and the employer pickup of the employee contributions would be 5.5% of the employee's salary under this resolution. And further on down, it says, if Taos County pursuant to New Mexico state statutes hereby elects to be responsible for making contributions of 27.99% of the employees' total member contributions for the Public Employees Retirement Association. Like I mentioned earlier, for these 3 plans, it's also part of our recruitment package that we're buying down the employees' contribution of it as well. So I stand for any questions. Ms. Elam's here from the Human Resources Department if there's any additional questions as well.
Commissioner Hill.
Yes, so as you stated, it's part of the plan and the compensation plan. So it was budgeted. That's mainly my question.
It would go into next year's budget. So we're comfortable.
Okay.
We're comfortable including this in next year's budget. So last year we did something similar. Like I said, I don't think we've missed a year. I think this is going to be year 6 that we've been doing this.
Okay.
And statutorily, this is what I didn't mention this year, is we can only buy down 1% of the employee contribution.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Per year, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, do I hear a motion?
I will make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-23, authorizing Taos County to pick up that additional 1%.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Hill. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Romero. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Commissioner Brush?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascareñas?
Yes.
Chair Romero?
Yes. Move on to D, Mr. Jaramillo.
Yes, this is very similar. This one now is for the sheriff's office. It is called municipal police member coverage, but it's one and the same for municipalities and for county governments. In this case, the pickup of the 1% would be on the employee side is 13.80, and for a total contribution by the county of the employees' salary, a total of 5.5% on the total employees' contribution would be 28.5%. So I recommend approval on this resolution as well.
Any questions on this resolution? If not, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-24. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Brush. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Commissioner Brush?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascarenhas?
Yes.
Chair Romero?
Yes. We move to E. Mr. Jaramillo.
This one is for the general membership coverage plan for Plan 4. Get another 1% buy down. After the pickup of member contribution, the employee contribution percentage would be 13.15. The county will be picking up 5.5% of the employee's salary into this resolution. The total contribution to para would be 29.49% of the employee's total member contribution. So I also recommend approval. So if you're not in the detention or the sheriff's plan, this is what everybody else falls under.
Oh, got it.
Motion to approve resolution 2024-25.
We have a motion by Commissioner Mascarenhas. Is there a second? Commissioned by Commissioner Romero. Madam Clerk, please call a roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Commissioner Brush?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascarenhas?
Yes.
Chair Romero?
Yes. And now we move to 11A, contracts, agreements, MOUs, and bids. A is discussion and consideration decision regarding the authority for county manager to sign the final contract for contract TCC 2024-13 GM emulsion on Plaza Road C011. The contract is for asphalt patching, chip, and fog seal on Plaza Road from junction for New Mexico 76 for 2.5 miles southeast of junction, New Mexico 75, and then 0.84 miles to the junction of New Mexico 76. Mr. Joe Fernandez.
Good morning, Chair Romero. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. The first, which is this for Plaza Road, this is to amend the contract. We were getting close to the cutoff for this one, so we wanted to be able to extend it. I have been in conversation with GM Emulsions, and they are finishing projects that they've already started further down south. And as soon as temperatures ease up a little bit for us, warm up, that they will start with these projects up north. They are currently working on certain areas on East Camino, which is in District 3, to try to do some repairs that took place over the winter. And like I said, this is one of these projects that we want to be able to get amended today. Please time for any questions.
Questions for Mr. Fernandez?
No questions. I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Vehil. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Mascarenhas. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Romero? Yes. Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Commissioner Brush?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascarenhas?
Yes.
Chair Romero?
Yes. And we'll just continue there with B, discussion, consideration, decision regarding the authority for county manager to sign the final contract documents for contract TCC 2024-14 GM emulsion on Blueberry Hill Road improvements. The contract is for subgrade preparation, asphalt placement, signing and striping from junction US 64 south for approximately 1.2 miles. Mr. Fernandez.
Alrighty, now Blueberry, that's all we've been waiting for. This is a new contract. We want to be able to get this started here pretty quick, especially with the project coming on in the middle of town. We want to be able to get this pushed along rather quickly, so that is at the top of their list. We've got a few others that also fit that bill, but Blueberry, we're hoping that that will get started relatively quickly to be able to at least offset a lot of that traffic that's coming through the middle of town and have a safe option for them on the opposite end. Like I said, hopefully that will be towards the end of this month. So I stand for any questions.
Commissioner Brush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Fernandez. I'm always thrilled to hear that there's something happening with Blueberry Hill Road. Any guess, and I know we don't do this with construction projects, I wouldn't do it in my own home, but for how long this might take for this phase of that first 1.2 miles?
They're indicating anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. If everything moves well, it should be no longer than that with everything going well.
Okay, and I won't hold you to 2 to 3 weeks, I
And like I
promise.
said, we want to be able to get those dates as quickly as we possibly can. That way we can get ahead of that so that we can start notifying the public as soon as possible to let them know that this is going to get started and to look for alternative routes. Not like there's a tremendous amount allowed to them, but like I said, at least at that point, it'll notify them that there is another project going on there.
Okay, you hit the nail on the head for me. Thank you with that, like notifying the public, because this will overlap with the construction right through the middle of town, right?
Absolutely.
And my concern, I guess, is just a little bit about like the frustration level out there.
Yep.
When people have two of the very few major north-south routes pretty backed up. And part of my concern is frankly for your team, for our team who are out there, or for our contractors teams who are out there doing the work. I hope that we're taking, whoever's out there actually doing the work, I hope we're taking appropriate safety measures. I'm sure you do, and I'm sure we are, but just want to raise that because the frustration level in the community is going to be kind of high. And then when these things are all done, whenever they're all done, we'll all be pretty happy.
Right. And it's unfortunate that we've got to be able to literally hope and pray for that good weather, as well, the contractors in the middle of town, as well as what will be taking place outside. We're all looking for that nice warm weather, and unfortunate that window is not very big. So we're trying to get the chunk of it as best as we can, as big as we can with the time that we have.
Thank you. And I will just put the first or the latest plea out there to the community. Please be patient with all of this. It's for the good. It's for the good, but please be patient for a few weeks while we get some of this much needed maintenance done.
Keep that speed down, keep the tempers down, and allow us to be able to get that job done as safely as we possibly can and keep our crews out there nice and safe.
Okay, Commissioner Hill.
Yes. Are you able to possibly give some alternative suggestions? Because I'm actually thinking about where would I go through.
Right.
And certainly living here, I have a couple of ideas.
Sure.
But I'm just wondering if there's some.
State Road 240 offers a very good path.
Right.
But then it bottlenecks right back into the work that's being done right in the middle of town. There is other alternatives, but like I said, having that said, can be real restrictive on large vehicle traffic, semis and so on. So it does need a little further review when you're coming in with larger vehicles. The best thing with those larger vehicles is avoid town altogether and remain out either on State Road 285, heading out towards Tres Piedras, and try to get away from that altogether and come down through 64.
Okay, great. See, that's great.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have another question, Commissioner?
Yeah, just to that point, I know that like down by Velarde, there is the digital sign that says, hey, trucks go this way. Can we enlist Rio Arriba County, the DOT, can we enlist like folks surrounding us to help put that, communicate that detour information out, whether it's going to work and whether drivers are going to pay attention to it or not, but especially for the trucks, maybe there's some help we can enlist to like really make sure that they follow the advice that you're pointing out.
Right. I mean, I could definitely keep in touch with DOT to indicate that we do have other alternatives and to be able to at least have those alternatives clearly marked prior to coming in and committing to coming through a lot of these opposite roads. So I definitely will keep in contact with NMDOT.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any further questions or discussion? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
I move to approval of item 11B, authority for the county manager to sign the final contract documents for contract TCC 2024-14 with GM Emulsion for Blueberry Hill Road improvements.
We have a motion by Commissioner Brush. Is there a second?
Second that.
Second by Commissioner Mascarenhas. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Commissioner Brush?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascarenhas?
Yes.
Chair Romero?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fernandez. Move to 12 department matters, discussion, consideration, decision regarding the approval for purchase of 2024 Ram 3500 regular cab snowplow truck. Ms. Fernandez.
Yes, this is a replacement for some of our aging fleet. We've got one that is in pretty bad shape. So this will be a replacement. We will be utilizing a grant that was given to us, and we are short just a little bit, and that will be coming up in front of you here just in a little bit. But this is just to replace one of our plow trucks for one of our districts.
Any questions? If not, do we have a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve, state it, with approval of those. Purchase of a 2024 Ram 3500 regular cab snowplow truck.
We have a motion by Commissioner Vale. Do I hear second? Second by Commissioner Romero. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Commissioner Brush?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascarenhas?
Yes.
Chair Romero?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Well done.
Move to the consent agenda. Is there any item on there, A through M, that any commissioner would like to discuss further? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the consent agenda, item 13A through M as presented.
Second that. We have a motion by Commissioner Brush, second by Commissioner Mascarenhas to approve the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Romero? Yes. Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Commissioner Brush?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mascarenhas?
Yes.
Chair Romero?
Yes. And we move to county manager's report and matters. Mr. Jaramillo.
Thank you, Chair Romero. I really don't have too much today. Last week on was the deadline for the 22 and 23 lodgers tax grant applications. We received 23 applications. The panel will review that on June 25th. There'll be another funding opportunity for applications in August. And our other grant, Contessa, is in Washington, D.C. with the fellowship cohort. And that she's learning about federal resources and connecting with representatives from the federal agency. So we look forward to her coming back and sharing what she's learned with us. We've also wrapped up the creative industries grant workshops. There were a total of 59 participants across Cuesta, Penasco, and Taos workshops. There'll be a celebration for them and a networking event hosted by the Chamber at TCA on June 6th at 5:30 p.m. And that's part of Jessica's work for business retention and expansion program by engaging these folks as they take their next steps to grow. And then and department-wise, we're at 16% countywide with 44 vacant positions. We're down to 16% vacant position, 16% vacancy rate with 44 vacant positions. I'll email that out to you a little bit later. We're working fast and furious on budget this week, and we're meeting with the departments. So we'll have a budget for you to review by the end of the week, and then we'll have our meeting next week as well. And we're working also hard. The facility staff is working hard with some maintenance improvements that have been happening at the plaza, at the Taos County Plaza. So we have done a few different projects there. Ms. Erin Beatty is also working with the Taos County Chamber of Commerce on bringing back 5 events for Taos Plaza Live. I think she is, the Chamber is looking to maybe start those a little bit later, and that way we can get through the traffic. The Sheriff's Office has agreed to provide support to them as well. I know the chamber is engaging with the town of Taos, possibly closing down the South Street and the one next to La Fonda, in front of La Fonda, if you can picture that. And then the one in front of the gorge. So far, the town of Taos has said no to that, but I think the chamber is continuing to ask for that as well. There's other folks that have want to have weddings on the plaza. La Fonda is looking to maybe do wedding packages and use the gazebo, and so none of those things have been worked out yet, but those conversations are taking place. Anissa's been having those conversations on behalf of the county. There's some other folks that want to put out tables and chairs for food, and that requires a different type of permitting. That's a lot different when you involve food. We've worked with the food cart folks. There's going to be approximately 3 different food carts. I think they've actually already started on the plaza, but we've worked with those folks. Nisa, I don't know if you have anything that I missed out on.
Actually, the food carts can't have seating out there. Dana from the town has already told us that they can't do that because it's part of the historical zoning that they have there. So they're not going to be able to do that. So we do have a meeting with Dinah on next Tuesday to go over all the permitting that some people will need. They will be able to do weddings, like La Fonda wants to do weddings, and that's a totally different permit. But as far as putting tables and chairs out there, they can't. So they can have the cart, but they can't have the seating because it's part of the historical district. So we're working with her on some of the other stuff. But other than that, everything else is, go ahead.
Commissioner Hill. Can that be changed? I mean, certainly
That's something that we're going to go over on Tuesday. Dinah's really trying to help, and we're all trying to figure out how we can make it work. But there is some stuff that we're limited to. I know the restaurant in La Fonda wants that area to sit outside, but I don't know if we're going to be able to accommodate that. So
I certainly would welcome some conversations because once again, we're talking about reimagining. I respect and get that there's certain things that you, in a historic area, you want to certainly, continue. But hopefully we can have some conversations around that. It sounds like that's happening.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Else has been positive. We're working. We're not turning anything away, like I said before. As long as we can get insurance and make sure it's safe, we can try to do, anything we can. But for the most part, it's been positive. So we're not having any.
Why is it important to close that street?
So you have the traffic. Well, we don't know. Right now it's closed off. They can't go out that way anyway. So, but we don't know what's going to be happening at the end of June. They might open that street up again to go out of the plaza. A lot of kids cross to the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. So it's like a constant, we have to watch the kids, and that's what we're trying to, that's what the safety plan, the chamber and Lindsay and I have been trying to figure out. We have like 3 stages that we want to do. If A doesn't work, we have B. If B doesn't work, we have C. So we also have, we're going to meet with the EMS. They can't be posted there because of the getting in and out if there's a call, but we're going to work with 911 to know that they'll know that we're out there. The sheriff's department, like they said, they're going to work with us too, so that maybe they can redirect traffic during the function so that we don't have to close the road. So there's like all these plans that we're kind of looking to see if it works.
Sure.
Okay, Commissioner.
So I would like to say thank you for embracing this. Certainly, I've always thought there's some really good things that can happen there. I know it's a little complicated right now because of the road situation, But I guess my point that I'm trying to get to overall is that we want to make sure that going forward, that the community is involved. There's a lot of ideas out there that.
So,
yeah, please.
sorry to interrupt you. So the roundtable, have the people from the roundtable have already contacted me. They want to do certain things. We're going to have to like evaluate everything because we can't just have them out there and they be, or have them talking out there and be representative for the county. So it's our property, so we have to make sure that they're covered by insurance. We have to make sure, so they have a lot of ideas and they want to help, which is a good thing. And they want to put up, not backside flowers, but ristras out there. They want to make it beautiful again. So we're taking it, every call that I get, I'm sitting there and actually going over it and seeing if it's something we can do. But to get to the nitty gritty, we may have to make sure there's insurance.
Absolutely.
And we have to make sure it's, it's something that's safe. And then once we get past that, then, it's a whole new ball game for us, trying to do this.
Absolutely. And I think we also need to remember that this is a great opportunity to reach out to the entire county, right? Because once again, that's the whole idea, is that this is a shared space. But thank you. I know this is something that we're all kind of trying to,
and our facility department, has been like unbelievable how they're doing all their normal work, but then they're also adding this on. We don't know how it's going to work, but we're working it. So.
And one last comment, and I think often, the community, they want to be heard. And I think for the most part, most people, when you lay out, the logic and why we can't do certain things, they understand, or at least it's our hope that they will understand. But it's just having those conversations and being real about what can be done and cannot be done. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Anissa. And
Mr. Chair, Anissa, I just want to echo thanks. Thanks for working with the chamber, the town, law enforcement, roundtable, all the folks. It's pretty cool to hear new ideas and new activities potentially happening, and also the old favorite ones like Taos Plaza Live coming back. So thank you, because I know it's also extra for you, not just for facilities, but also for you. So thank you.
County Plaza Live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kind of along the note too, we're either we can't find a contractor to help with the maintenance or the cleaning. So we're probably going to be looking at hiring either 2.5 positions or 3 positions to this. And then we'd rotate them between here and, if it comes out of non-promotional lodgers tax, between here and the Ag Center, because there's work to be done at the Ag Center too. So it's not like we can't keep them busy. And then we have to have it as really a 7-day-a-week operation as well, because of any weekend activity and cleaning. And so we're looking at that as we speak. We're evaluating if we have to change the job descriptions, or the job description that we currently have suffices. And I have nothing further, so I stand for any questions.
Any questions for Commissioner Bush?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One quick question, Brent. You mentioned that our vacancy rate is 16%. I don't think in the last few years I've heard that number. Do you have any sense? Do you know when the last time we had a vacancy rate of staff positions being filled that was in that area?
It would probably have to be pre-COVID.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
Any further questions? Okay. We'll move then to B, discussion, consideration, possible direction to the county manager regarding Town of Taos request for a meeting regarding the fire department operations. Mr. Army.
Yes, Manager Gonzalez called last week, and he wanted to have a meeting between the county and the town regarding fire department operations. And then I said I would take it back to ask the commission. And I thought, okay, no, this is should be an agenda item versus calling you on the phone. And this would be, and then, and Manager Gonzalez sent that email that I forwarded to you guys yesterday. I know they would like to have this meeting soon. It's something also that it would involve our fire and rescue department as well. I think, at least on our side, we would involve our department, our fire chief as well as key staff members to be part of the conversation. Chief Cordova did indicate that for him, closer to June 19th would work better for him. I need to see if there's any flexibility with that. I didn't get a chance to call him prior to the meeting. He did let me know that last night. Initially, when Mr. Gonzalez called me, he was talking 2 to 3 weeks. And I don't know what the commission's schedule would be like.
We have a meeting on June 18th.
Yes.
As well as we have New Mexico counties for anyone that's driving down there.
Right.
All right. That's the only two things. I have a meeting.
Commissioner Bush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The scheduling of this aside, and I'm completely open to the conversation. It's probably a good one that we need to have. I would just ask, have we seen any kind of proposal or, suggestions, anything about what we'd actually be discussing? Because my concern is that if it's just like a wide open conversation, like what happens with fire service in the county, that it's not going to be a super productive conversation, as opposed to if we had a proposal, a plan, even if it's just a straw man to start from. So I'm not sure if we've received that from the town, but I would say that that would be a very useful first piece to have in place before we actually sit down and try to do the work of having the conversation.
No, we don't have a plan. The town's not presented a plan either. There's just been verbal conversations that we've had over the course of 2 years now.
My recommendation would be that we actually see something, whether we put it together, like staff puts it together jointly, or we see something, what they're thinking. My recommendation and my preference would be to have actually something to chew on, rather than just showing up and having not much structure or direction to the conversation. I'm just trying to set it up to be as productive as possible.
Yeah, the conversation could be a little bit more structured if we had something preliminary, some kind of preliminary plan as to what the discussion is about.
And Chair, if I may, certainly welcome the conversation as well. And I can't imagine they don't have some ideas. They just need to put it down in writing, just so that we have something, like you said, to discuss in context.
Okay, so if that's the case, is that what we want to do? Ask them to put something in writing?
Well, I would say for them to be prepared, to present something. Are you wanting to, Chair? I'm sorry, Commissioner Brush, are you wanting to see something in advance?
I think that would be the most useful way to structure the conversation. So I think that our direction is, if we have our direction to our manager, and this is just my suggestion, we can agree or not, is that if we have something to actually structure the conversation with, if we have, and it can be a plan that, whatever they're thinking, just some starting point for the conversation, so that we're not just like sitting there looking at each other going like, where do we start?
Can you do that then, Mr.
Well, let them know that that Taos County is willing to sit down. They want to see a little bit more.
June 19th is not going to work for me. It really isn't, because I believe I'm going to be driving to Vegas.
We'll figure out a date and then.
Instead of having a meeting, so we can also give it for a week. Because if they give it to us during a meeting.
Oh, no, I think the idea is to give it to us in advance. And so when we go to the meeting, we'll be prepared. Yeah, to ask questions.
We're going to have that meeting immediately.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Just so we can all toss it around ourselves.
So where are we then? We're going to ask for a plan and then try to set the meeting. Are we still receptive to a date in June?
Yeah, I'm going to see what dates and work for that.
The 13th of June would work for me.
The what date?
13th of June.
Let me see real quick.
We might want to see what they're ready and when they're ready, what they're ready with and when they're ready for it. And then I think
Yeah,
Brett can
this
come
is
back
a
to us.
proposal, then it could come back and see when they're ready.
Yeah,
And like you said, I think it's important to have our key staff folks, you know, Chief Cordova and so on.
yeah, and Chief Cordova and probably our fire marshal are going to be down in Socorro for firefighter 1 and firefighter 2 trainings to support our staff down there. So that's where they're going to be busy in the first part of June. And then next week, and then they're also Chief Cordova, EMS supervisor, they're all going along with our office manager, they're going down for the billing training as well. So they're going to be attending that training.
Okay, so we have to look at their dates.
Yeah.
Their billability, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I think we have an idea though, yeah.
Okay, any further discussion on this, or we know where we're going? Okay, then we'll move then to commissioner reports and matters.
New business to be considered?
Pardon?
New business to be considered?
New business to be considered is A. Future commission meetings, any new business to be considered?
With everything going on, I don't have anything to add. It's like me.
We move to B, which commissioners' announcements.
I have one announcement. Mr. Chair. Thank you. Just a friendly reminder, tonight at 5:30 is the True Kids 1 film set of films, a film series around the future of our community. So that's at 5:30 at the TCA, True Kids 1.
Okay. Any other commissioner announcements?
I do have one.
Okay.
Most recently, I've had a couple of conversations where individuals from the school would like for the kiddos to come our way to learn a little bit about what we do. And I think that's a great idea. I've been wanting to do something like this for quite some time. So I just want to give you all a heads up. There's still conversation around that. What does that look like? When can that happen? Matter of fact, I think the ask was if we could bring 15 kids this week. And so it's really quick. I don't know that we can coordinate quick enough, but just letting you know, I did want to also share that we do have this book that was put out, which is called The Marvelous Adventures of Countyland. And so this was put out by National Association of Counties. They started with this, ended up with this being the final. And definitely want to see if we can get those books down here so we can pass them out to the kiddos. But that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hill. We move to C, which is board committee reports, New Mexico counties.
That would be me, and I will make this really quick. So I did attend a board of directors meeting in Grant County on May 3rd of 2024, and a lot of the business was budget related, and we were able to pass a budget. Everything looks good, but I did want to bring to your attention, commissioners, that there is an ask member participation fee breakdown, an increase of 10%. That is being asked of, that will be actually asked of all counties. Right now, Taos County pays $29,172. They're asking us to, it will go up to $32,089, increase of $2,917. And so as anything, everything is going up. It seems pretty reasonable. And I would just want to let you all know. Brent, you might already know this, I'm not sure. Okay, then I'm letting you know, and I'm sure that you'll get something from Joy down the line. But heads up, it's coming our way. Last, I just want to share the final legislative report, and it's I want to focus in on some of the big stuff that actually did happen. I'm not sure how this is going to affect us yet because there are some details that, some criteria that needs to be met, but House Bill 2, General Appropriations Act of 2024 focused largely on critical funding for public safety initiatives. $25 million was obtained for detention and corrections recruitment. 25 million for firefighter and firefighter and EMT recruitment. 11 million for EMS Bureau, contingent on passage of, okay, well, I disregard that, EMS Bureau. 5 million detention reimbursement and 2.5 million on DeWitt 700 MHTZ radios. So I would just say that if anyone is interested in what those mean, and certainly want to hand this to Brent at some point to see if this will benefit us in any way. I know the recruitment, there is a criteria. I think you have to be 10% in vacancy before you can actually, that kicks in. And as we're hearing all the rates on vacancy, we would not qualify because right now I think we're pretty fully, I think we're not vacant in detention, right? Okay, so I don't think we meet the criteria, but something to consider in the future if we do get to that point. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Commissioner Hale. And we are at adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Brush, second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We've made it before 12.